I take the Earth to wander. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, The Forbidden City with a History of 9750. An ancient hibernation chamber has been found, with suspected human life signs. Warning: the ancient hibernation chamber is about to collapse, and the suspected human target needs to be transferred immediately. The Beatty aerospace fighter has arrived above the hibernation chamber, the magnetic confinement field is turned on, and the optical tweezers grabbing has begun. The hibernation chamber has been transferred to the bionic medical spacecraft. Nanoworms have begun to devour the hibernation chamber. Begin to revive the suspected human target. Inject active nanomedical fluid. The target's vital signs have basically stabilized. DNA testing has been completed, and the database information has been retrieved to confirm the identity. Welcome to 10,000 years later, human Lin Xu. 10,000 years later? In the haze, Lin Xu only felt a soft white light in front of his eyes, which was not dazzling, but rather a little comfortable. There was no pain on his body that had been following him for many years. That was a feeling that had never left him since he was diagnosed with cancer. That was why he joined the human cryopreservation hibernation experiment of Kangti Medical Company in the late stage of cancer. Looking forward to fighting for that glimmer of hope. But even Lin Xu himself didn't expect that he would succeed. Only 10,000 years? This time is a bit too long. He thought that a few decades at the slowest, or a few hundred years at the most, would be enough. Who knew that after a nap, it would be 10,000 years? How do you feel now? Human Lin Xu. A soft voice that was obviously electronic sound echoed in Lin Xu's ears. I feel very good, never been so good before. Lin Xu slowly stood up. His muscles did not atrophy due to long-term disuse. His movements were normal. It was probably because of some medical treatment that he didn't know. At the same time, he looked around and collected information with his eyes. This was a room with soft white light flashing in all directions. Lin Xu could only see his own reflection on the spotless wall. He was wearing a white suit of unknown material, with a bald head, without a single hair, and even his eyebrows were completely gone. I just don't know what's going on underneath. Unfortunately, in this case, Lin Xu was too embarrassed to check. Excuse me, what should I call you, and where is this place? Lin Xu asked tentatively. Advanced Artificial Intelligence Quantum Computer Taiyin, salute you, human Lin Xu. This is the Taiyin bionic medical spacecraft. Artificial intelligence? Quantum computer? Medical spaceship? These words combined together allowed Lin Xu to quickly sort out the basic situation at present. At the same time, he had more questions. Is it 10,000 years from now? Yes, the current time is 9,750 years from the start of the voyage. A soft electronic sound fell, as if to better answer Lin Xu's questions. In an instant, the walls around the entire room slowly changed from real to virtual. The walls with image display function projected the scene outside the spaceship, as if the entire spaceship had become transparent, allowing Lin Xu to see the scene outside directly. So Lin Xu seemed to be standing in the void, and all kinds of scenes from all directions came into his eyes. Mountains, flowing water, flowers, and forests. The bionic medical spaceship was flying rapidly not far from the ground, and everything on the Earth was so beautiful. Soon a city appeared in front of the spaceship. The city still had the shadow of the city in Lin Xu's impression, but the skyscrapers were built taller, and there were many more facilities in the city that were unfamiliar, but Lin Xu could barely understand. The crisscrossing tracks in the air are obviously a means of transportation similar to light rail. There are also cleaning robots crawling on the skyscrapers, cleaning the outer curtain walls like spiders. And it is precisely because of this that Lin Xu is even more puzzled. After 10,000 years, human cities have not changed much? Has the development of human technology stagnated? However, as he got closer and closer to the city, Lin Xu soon discovered something even stranger. From a distance, he seemed to see no one in the city. There seemed to be no signs of human activity in the city. You just said, the sailing calendar. 2300 AD, and also the first year of the sailing calendar. That year, humans set sail for deep space and left the Earth. The explanation of the artificial intelligence Taiyin made Lin Xu's pupils tremble, but it also explained a large part of his doubts. No wonder the city has not changed much after 10,000 years. Because the current appearance of the city is actually what it looked like in 2300 AD. Since then, there has been no human existence in this world, so there is no need for the city to develop. The latest novels are first published on 69 Shuba. It is only regularly repaired and maintained by artificial intelligence to maintain the appearance when humans left. Is this Yanjing? As the spaceship entered the city, Lin Xu finally recognized the city, especially the Forbidden City in the center of the city, which was so recognizable. The database data shows that you were born in 2023 and are Chinese. So I sent you here. You can rest here. Rest? Can I rest there? Lin Xu thought and pointed to the Forbidden City in the distance, the area between the North Sea and the South Sea, which was called Ziyun in ancient times. Of course. All this. Lin Xu felt a little confused. You are now the only human on Earth. The intelligent quantum computer Taiyin reminded. I suddenly feel that sleeping for 10,000 years doesn't seem to be all bad. If you are interested, you can stay at the White House tomorrow night. The room where the president lives. Lin Xu confirmed. You can choose whatever you want. Buckingham Palace, Versailles Palace, Kremlin, all of these are fine. Okay, the amount of information is a bit overwhelming. I think I really need a break now. Can you help me compile a simple explanation of what happened after I went into hibernation and show it to me? Of course. The Aero spaceship slowly landed on the water near the Forbidden City. Lin Xu first went to visit the areas in the Forbidden City that were once forbidden to visit, and even took a selfie sitting on the Emperor's dragon chair. Subconsciously wanting to open his circle of friends to share, he suddenly remembered that everything had changed drastically, and everything he was familiar with was no longer there. Suddenly, a feeling of boredom came over him. Lin Xu sighed, put down the phone that Taiyin had prepared for him according to his habit, stood up and slowly walked out of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, stood on the Imperial Road, and looked down at the square in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, which was once a tourist attraction and was crowded with people. At this time, it was terribly empty and lonely, as if he had become an ancient emperor, alone and lonely. Looking up at the sky, the sun is dazzling and the clouds are changing into various shapes. It is just like it was 10,000 years ago. Unfortunately, 10,000 years have passed and everything is different. Chapter 2, Miss Qiu, a nuclear peace activist. On the lawn in front of the White House, Lin Xu sat on a lounge chair under a parasol, flipping through a paper document in his hand. On the small round table beside him, in addition to the rest of the information, there was also a can of bubbling Coke. That was prepared for him by Taiyin after he searched the database and rebuilt a 21st century Coke factory according to his habit. Lin Xu was unaware of this, because in the past 3 days, Lin Xu had been completely immersed in the information given to him by Taiyin, and couldn't extricate himself. What happened 10,000 years ago occupied all of Lin Xu's thoughts. How could he still pay attention to trivial matters like Coke? He had lived in the White House for 3 days. The original plan was to stay here for 1 day and then go to the Palace of Versailles. But the temptation of the information in his hand made Lin Xu completely lose his enthusiasm for signing in and punching in. Anyway, he could go anytime, so he would talk about it later. He just wanted to solve as many of his doubts as possible. But unfortunately, after looking through so much information, Lin Xu still couldn't find the reason why humans collectively left the Earth in 2300 AD and started a long voyage. As for this matter, Taiyin, an artificial intelligence, also did not know, because it was a top secret of mankind. Perhaps the artificial intelligence that set sail with humans would have information in this regard. But the artificial intelligence that stayed behind on Earth like Taiyin would definitely not have information in this regard. So Lin Xu could only regretfully turn to studying the route of human voyages. In 2300 AD, the first year of the voyage, the first goal of mankind was Proxima Centauri, a star located 4.3 light-years away from the Earth in the constellation Centaurus. With the technology of mankind at that time, it was possible to accelerate the speed of long-distance spacecraft to 1% of the speed of light. Counting the time of acceleration and the time of deceleration when it was about to arrive at Proxima Centauri, it would take about 500 years for the long-distance fleet to reach Proxima Centauri. And the final fact was indeed so. It took mankind about 500 years to reach the Proxima star system. During this period, Taiyin was able to receive the signals sent to the Earth by the long-distance fleet when it used the Earth for positioning, so some information was preserved. It is also shown in these data that the curvature engine technology that humans had been developing before they set sail had been successfully developed during the 500 years of sailing. Subsequently, humans built a factory to produce curvature engines on a planet in the Proxima star system, and stayed there for nearly 100 years to produce curvature engines. It was not until the curvature engines were installed and debugged that the fleet equipped with curvature engines set off again in the 600th year of the sailing calendar. At a speed close to the speed of light, it sailed into the depths of the Milky Way. Seeing this, Lin Xu couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed as if he had already seen that magnificent era. It was a pity that he didn't catch up. The magnetic levitation traction platform slowly glided from not far away and stopped at the edge of the lawn. The bionic girl, who looked no different from a human woman, slowly walked down the platform with a tray of lunch in her hand and came to where Lin Xu was. As the only human on Earth, Taiyin, a quantum computer with advanced artificial intelligence, was also worried about his physical and mental health. Humans are a social animal, and long-term loneliness is fatal. Although Taiyin couldn't find a second human to accompany Lin Xu, it was no problem to produce bionic people. So Taiyin suggested to Lin Xu that the bionic factory that had been sealed for nearly 10,000 years be used to produce companion bionic people for Lin Xu with advanced artificial intelligence. Lin Xu was busy reading the information at the time, so he agreed without thinking much. Until now, when he really saw a beautiful girl who looked like a human walking towards him, Lin Xu was stunned for a moment before he realized that it was not that there was a second human in the world, but that there was a bionic person with advanced artificial intelligence. "Master, your lunch." The silver-haired girl was slender and beautiful like a work of art. She placed the meals on the tray in her hand for Lin Xu one by one. After all, the Chinese people are obsessed with white hair, so when Taiyin helped him choose a companion bionic person, it was reasonable to choose silver hair color. "Thank you, have you eaten?" Lin Xu subconsciously said politely, then hesitated for a moment. "Well, do you need to eat? This body is mainly powered by biological batteries, but it can also consume energy through eating when necessary." The silver-haired girl standing by answered. "Then do you want to eat something together?" Lin Xu invited. "Is this an order?" "No, it's just an inquiry. If you don't want to, just refuse." "I don't understand." Lin Xu's eyes were a little dim. After all, bionic people are not real humans. Even if they have flesh and blood similar to humans, they are just artificial intelligence. They can't communicate like humans. For him, the last human on Earth, companionship is indeed the most luxurious. However, advanced artificial intelligence has the ability to learn and evolve independently, just like Taiyin, so as time goes by, she should also change. Lin Xu can only look forward to it. On the lawn of the square under the Eiffel Tower, on the banks of the Seine. The latest novels are first published on the 69th Book Forum. Lin Xu waved his club and played golf in this world-famous square. Although he had never played before, it didn't stop him from trying. Anyway, he was the only one left in the world, and no matter how badly he played, no one would laugh at him. The silver-haired girl in a caddy uniform followed Lin Xu, still waiting for him to name her. With a bang, Lin Xu, who had missed many shots, finally hit the golf ball. Watching the ball fly away, Lin Xu, who was not good at naming, finally thought of a name that he felt was high-end and classy. "Why don't I call you Miss Qiu from now on?" So, the name of Miss Qiu, a nuclear peace activist, was decided, just like the beginning of everything. "I don't want to play anymore. It's boring." Lin Xu casually threw down the club in his hand and turned to walk towards the Seine. The club was taken away by the robot, and the silver-haired girl Miss Qiu followed Lin Xu. The luxurious cruise ship sailed along the Seine River into the English Channel. Lin Xu lay by the swimming pool on the deck of the cruise ship, looking up at the stars in the night sky. Miss Qiu beside him was grilling 2 octopuses and a piece of bluefin tuna belly on the grill, and she didn't forget to sprinkle cumin and chili powder. Bluefin tuna, which was once more valuable than gold and the top ingredient for making sashimi, is now just a very common ingredient for Lin Xu, and he can eat it however he wants. When there's only one person left in the world, the rarity of ingredients is meaningless. After all, no matter how rare the ingredients are, he can't finish them all by himself. In our time, there was a very popular series of movies, do you know? Lin Xu suddenly said. "Which one are you talking about?" Miss Qiu poured the cleaned matsutake into the pot of stewing chicken. Because your master wanted to try the difference in taste between the chicken stewed with the mushrooms and matsutake. I want to find them, follow the star path they walked, and see the scenery they saw 10,000 years ago. But I can't bear to leave the earth. What do you think I should do? Lin Xu raised one hand, with 5 fingers spread out, as if to grasp the stars in the night sky. I don't understand. Miss Qiu answered as expected. But Lin Xu smiled. He had made a decision. I've decided. I will take the earth to find them. Chapter 3, A New Journey. Since humans left the earth 10,000 years ago, they drove a long-distance fleet to Proxima Centauri, 4.3 light-years away. Taiyin, a quantum computer with advanced artificial intelligence, was ordered to stay on Earth. Under the last order of humans, it continued to manufacture various autonomous machines. In 10,000 years, these autonomous machines have expanded to the entire solar system. Until now, after Lin Xu gave an order, all these autonomous machines throughout the solar system started to move. A large number of autonomous machines gathered towards the Earth. At the same time, various factories were built on Jupiter, Venus, Mars and other planets to manufacture various parts for planetary engines. Lin Xu planned to follow the movies he had seen before, install planetary engines on the Earth, push the Earth out of the solar system, follow the direction of the human long-distance fleet, follow the footsteps of humans all the way, and embark on the journey of finding humans. This is what Lin Xu said, take the Earth to find them. However, if you really want to push the Earth, 10,000 planetary engines and steering engines are definitely not enough. So Lin Xu plans to build 100,000, and each one will be 10 or 100 times larger than the one in the movie. According to Taiyin's calculations, with a production capacity of the existing autonomous machinery throughout the solar system, it would take about 20 years to build 100,000 planetary engines. I'm afraid this is also the reason why humans chose to leave by spaceship instead of taking the Earth away 10,000 years ago. After all, the autonomous machinery at that time had not undergone nearly 10,000 years of continuous expansion, and the construction capacity was far from enough. But now everything is different. The continuous expansion of autonomous machinery for nearly 10,000 years has given Lin Xu the foundation to implement his fantasy. However, there is a prerequisite for all this, that is, more quantum computers with advanced artificial intelligence are needed, which can be autonomous and cooperate with each other for construction. When humans left, only Taiyin, a quantum computer with advanced artificial intelligence, was left on the Earth. Although the computing power of the remaining quantum computers was not weaker than Taiyin, they were not given advanced artificial intelligence and had no autonomy. At that time, humans considered that too much advanced artificial intelligence and too much autonomy might produce unexpected variables, so in order for artificial intelligence to faithfully execute the orders left by humans, only Taiyin, a high-level artificial intelligence, was left. Taiyin has no authority to produce more advanced artificial intelligence, whether it is a quantum computer with advanced artificial intelligence or bionic person with advanced artificial intelligence. Only humans have this authority. It was not until Lin Xu woke up that Taiyin produced Miss Qiu, a companion bionic person with advanced artificial intelligence, for Lin Xu with Lin Xu's consent. Taiyin, if you want to build a planetary engine smoothly, how many intelligent quantum computers do you need? 3 are enough. Okay, then make 2 more. At the Lunar Gene Research Institute, Lin Xu has just completed genetic modification. He is adapting to his body's condition. The so-called genetic modification can make Lin Xu's body stronger and easier to adapt to long-distance life in space. For example, Lin Xu, who has now completed genetic modification, can easily break the world records of various sports competitions in the 21st century. Of course, these are not the most important things. The most important thing is to extend life. A long enough life is the necessary foundation for long-term space travel. After the genetic modification is completed, Lin Xu can theoretically live for about 500 years. In addition, the dormant chamber can be dormant for a long time. Lin Xu only needs to wake up from time to time to deal with some problems that require his authority to deal with. It is enough for him to last until 10,000 years later, or even longer. This is also one of the reasons why Lin Xu decided to chase the footsteps of mankind and find the confidence of mankind. It is because he can have enough time. Although compared with the vastness of the universe, this time is still just a drop in the ocean. And Lin Xu's other confidence is the curvature engine construction factory left by humans in the Proxima star system. Therefore, when building the planetary engine, the autonomous machinery deliberately left room for the installation of the curvature engine. Only after arriving in the Proxima star system and obtaining the factory's equipment and comprehensive information, can the curvature engine be upgraded for the planetary engine. By then, with a speed close to the speed of light, it can be regarded as truly chasing the footsteps of mankind. Lin Xu now only hopes that after 10,000 years, the curvature engine factory will still be intact, at least most of it will be intact, and will not be damaged beyond repair. The huge pendulum rotates in the Wugang lunar orbital space station around the moon, creating artificial gravity similar to that of the Earth. Lin Xu was standing in the lobby of Wugang at this time, feeling the gravity similar to that on Earth, listening to the exciting music of Start a New Journey resounding through the space station, swinging the golf club again, playing golf with the moon scenery outside the floor-to-ceiling window as the background. P.S. There should be BGM here. This time, Lin Xu felt that his control over strength and angle, etc., had risen by more than one level. Although he had not played golf many times, he relied on the precise control of how each muscle in his body exerted force, and easily hit the golf ball to any position he wanted, and even made a hole-in-one. Clap, clap. Miss Qiu's mechanical applause came from behind, but Lin Xu did not feel happy at all. After trying a few times, Lin Xu dropped the golf club in his hand, did 2 chest expansions, felt the strength in his body, and the control over this strength, and felt that a dead otaku like himself who never exercised could actually have such a good physical fitness, even better than professional athletes. How could this be justified? Outside the window, with the moon as the background, the autonomous machine that obscured the entire lunar land and sky was intensively building the lunar engine. The latest novel was first published on the 69th book bar. After completion, the lunar engine will push the moon away from the Earth's gravitational orbit, making it a satellite of Mars. The moon, a satellite that has been praised by countless human poems since ancient times and has countless human emotions, will watch here until the day of the return of the Earth in the unknown future. Lin Xu stood in front of the window, admiring the magnificent scenery, while the music of the space station also transitioned to space elevator. Hello, human Lin Xu. The advanced artificial intelligence quantum computer has been built. According to your order, a total of 2 have been built. Please name them. Taiyin's voice sounded through the broadcasting system of the space station. Just call them Yinghuo and Kaiming. Lin Xu said the names he had thought of long ago. As a bad namer, Lin Xu didn't know what name to come up with. But he thought of Taiyin, which is the name of the moon in ancient times. Then he thought that he would leave the solar system soon. So he might as well name the 2 according to the planets in the solar system. Yinghuo and Kaiming, these are the ancient names of Mars and Venus, which can be regarded as a kind of commemoration. Master, Yinghuo reports to you. Master, Kaiming reports to you. 2 voices that were more rigid than Taiyin sounded. They no longer called the human Lin Xu, but called him Master, just like Miss Qiu. Lin Xu laughed. It doesn't matter if it's rigid, advanced artificial intelligence can grow. Sooner or later, they will become more and more like a real intelligent life, just like Taiyin. P.S. The new book is setting sail, please collect, recommend, and read it. It's not easy to be a newbie. Thank you for your support, thank you. Chapter 4, The Day the Moon Sets Off. With the participation of the 2 new advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers, Yinghuo and Kaiming, the construction speed of the planetary engine has been qualitatively improved. In particular, the 20 engines on the moon were the first to be successfully built. On the African savanna, the afterglow of the setting sun coated the wild African land with a layer of gold. Lin Xu, wearing a power exoskeleton armor that covered his entire body, sat among a group of lions, and reached out to stroke a male lion like a cat. The lion was held down by the palm of Lin Xu's exoskeleton armor, and even if it was unwilling, there was no other way. Just like wild cats can't resist humans, lions can't resist humans wearing power exoskeleton armor. Especially after it tried to bite Lin Xu's arm and ended up losing 2 teeth, it immediately became as obedient as possible. And Lin Xu, who satisfied his wish to stroke the lion, also showed a satisfied smile on his face under the helmet. In the RV on the magnetic levitation traction platform not far away, Miss Qiu slowly walked towards Lin Xu. With silver hair and a professional suit, she looked like an ordinary white-collar beauty. There was nothing special about her except that she was too beautiful. The lions surrounding Lin Xu, who were helpless against Lin Xu, immediately became agitated again. One of the lions roared and pounced on the seemingly fragile Miss Qiu. However, Miss Qiu just waved her hand in a plain way, as if to drive away a fly, and this palm happened to hit the connection of the lion's lower jaw. With a bang, the lion was slapped to the ground, whimpering, struggling for a long time but not getting up. Looking at the jaw again, it was completely dislocated. Not far away, a robot took the initiative to help the dislocated lion heal, and the lions lay down again honestly, and no one dared to provoke Miss Qiu again. "Master, the hibernation chamber is ready, you should prepare to hibernate," Miss Qiu reminded. "Wait a little longer, let me take a last look at the moon." Lin Xu looked up at the sky and patted the lion's butt with his palm. When he was still together with his ex-girlfriend, they had a tabby cat named Gauden in their little home. At that time, Gauden liked Lin Xu to pat his butt the most. As long as he patted his butt, Gauden, who was originally very cold, would immediately collapse into a ball and make a purring sound in his throat. Whenever this happened, his ex-girlfriend would jealously grab Gauden and ask him why he only kissed his father and not his mother. Unfortunately, Lin Xu was diagnosed with advanced cancer later. After crying bitterly in front of his bed, his ex-girlfriend took Gauden away from their home and disappeared. Since then, Lin Xu has never seen Gauden and doesn't know whether he is doing well. Night fell, the starry sky on the African savanna was bright and magnificent, and the moon was also particularly bright. If nothing unexpected happens, this should be the last normal full moon that can be seen on Earth. Soon the moon will be pushed out of orbit and go to Mars. From then on, the Earth will never see such a bright full moon again. As time goes by, the moon will get farther and farther, and smaller, until the moon goes far enough and can no longer be seen. "Human Lin Xu, do you want to personally order the ignition?" Taiyin's voice came. Compared with Miss Qiu, Yinghe, and Kaiming, who also have advanced artificial intelligence but still behave dull, Taiyin, an advanced artificial intelligence that has existed for tens of thousands of years, obviously feels more like an intelligent creature. At least at this time, it can sense Lin Xu's emotional side and then ask, "Are you ready?" Lin Xu asked. "Ready. Ready, Master." Taiyin, Yinghe, and Kaiming, three voices came at the same time. Lin Xu, wearing a powered exoskeleton, took the glass of wine handed over by Miss Qiu, raised the glass to the moon, then opened a gap in the mask, drank it in one gulp, and then gave the order. "Ignite." In an instant, Lin Xu, who is on the African savanna, saw more than a dozen tiny beams of light on the moon in the sky. The beams of light looked extremely weak, but they were eternal. Everything has begun. Although the moon does not seem to have changed much now, Lin Xu knows that in a few days, the moon will become smaller and smaller until it can no longer be seen. At the same time, because of the departure of the moon, the entire ecosystem on the Earth will also suffer a catastrophe. First of all, the tides will not be so frequent, and a large number of marine creatures that rely on the rise and fall of the tides will go extinct. Then the Earth's magnetic field will change, and migratory birds will not be able to use the magnetic field to identify directions and find food. The weather will also become unpredictable, the North and South poles will melt, and the tropical rainforests will dry up. The most important thing is that the rotation speed of the Earth will also speed up, and the length of a day will be greatly shortened. All this is naturally nothing for the Earth itself, but it is a catastrophe for the life living on the surface of the Earth. Incorporate them into the African ecosphere plan. Lin Xu scratched the lion's chin like a cat and said, "Yes, Master." Miss Qiu, who is in charge of the ecosphere plan, replied. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. The so-called ecosphere plan is that Lin Xu is going to build several ecospheres on the Earth that simulate various environments. There are African ecosystems, Asian ecosystems, American ecosystems, desert ecosystems, rainforest ecosystems, marine ecosystems, and so on. Some of these ecosystems will be built underground in the planetary engine, using the heat energy from the planetary engine to maintain the operation of the ecosystem. Another part will be built on the original location above the ground, using ecological dome technology and nuclear fusion sun to simulate the normal sky. Although all the animals and plants on the entire Earth have genetic backups, Lin Xu still feels that it is necessary to preserve some ecosystems. Even if it is used as a place to relax occasionally during future space travel, it is also good. After all, in space travel, mentality is very important. Having these ecosystems that maintain the original appearance of the Earth is very beneficial for regulating the body and mind. After arranging everything, Lin Xu finally let the lions go and let them leave. After a mechanical sound of clicking, the power exoskeleton opened and Lin Xu walked out. Miss Qiu next to him had already set up a barbecue grill and was grilling 2 large pieces of fresh beef. Speaking of which, this was the prey of the lions just now, but now it belongs to Lin Xu. Of course, Lin Xu couldn't eat the whole buffalo, so Miss Qiu only cut 2 pieces of the best meat, and the whole buffalo was still taken away by the lions. Where is the hibernation chamber placed? The Sky Space Station. 20 years, when I wake up in 20 years, the Earth will be a different place. Lin Xu sighed. Yes. Miss Qiu answered in a serious manner, and her hands did not stop cooking the roast beef. Until an hour later, an aerospace fighter rose from the sky above the African grasslands and rushed towards the low Earth orbit. There, the Sky Space Station was already on standby. P.S. It's not easy to write a new book. Please collect it, read it, and recommend it. Thank you for your support. Chapter 5 After 20 years of dormancy. As the Sky Dome space station began to rotate, artificial gravity started. Lin Xu, who was floating in the air, finally had his feet on the ground again. However, this artificial gravity created by centrifugal force is slightly different from normal gravity after all, and it always feels a bit awkward. I remember that during the 500 years of human voyage to the Proxima Galaxy, humans not only developed curvature engine technology, but also anti-gravity technology. I don't know if they left technical information or even equipment factories in the Proxima Galaxy. It would be great if we could get the anti-gravity technology at that time. Artificial gravity created by anti-gravity is the most similar to real gravity. Located at the core of the Sky Dome space station is a hibernation chamber specially prepared for Lin Xu. This is a new type of hibernation chamber developed in the late 23rd century, that is, before humans set sail. It is not the ancient hibernation chamber of the 21st century that Lin Xu used when he slept for 10,000 years. The ancient hibernation chamber uses frozen hibernation. First of all, it is not safe enough. Lin Xu was lucky to survive. Secondly, the experience is not good. After all, being frozen into a piece of frozen meat will never be comfortable. But the new hibernation chamber in the 23rd century is different. It does not require freezing. It relies on a special cell-level hypnosis method to suspend the activity of every cell in the human body, making people feel like they are sleeping and entering a dormant state. The disadvantage is that a large amount of energy supply must be maintained continuously, which consumes too much energy. This energy is naturally an extremely uneconomical astronomical figure for humans in the 21st century. But for humans in the 23rd century who have unlocked nuclear fusion power generation technology, it is nothing. After changing into a close-fitting hibernation suit, Lin Xu slowly lay down in the hibernation chamber. The small nuclear fusion power generation device carried by the Sky Dome space station began to charge the hibernation chamber. The hibernation chamber entered standby mode. The hibernation experience 10,000 years ago was not very good for Lin Xu. After all, the whole person was frozen, and it would not be comfortable no matter how you think about it. But this time, Lin Xu can only hope that the latest technology is really as comfortable as the instructions say. Master, I will sleep next to you. If you wake up unexpectedly, you can wake me up at any time. Before helping Lin Xu buckle the coffin board, Miss Qiu gestured to another coffin next to him and said to Lin Xu, "Well, it's a hibernation chamber, but this thing is not much different in appearance, except that it looks a little rounder than a coffin." Lin Xu nodded and closed his eyes. Then, as the door of the hibernation chamber closed, waves of sleepiness came over him, and Lin Xu fell asleep. The last thought was that it seemed to be much more comfortable, just like sleeping. It's great not to be frozen. It's like just having a comfortable sleep. Lin Xu's consciousness slowly returned, as if he had just closed his eyes and fell into deep sleep, and then woke up. Lin Xu even had an illusion that something had happened in the hibernation chamber, and he was awakened just as he was about to fall asleep. "Master, you are awake. The time is now 9,770 years of the starting calendar, and your 20 years of hibernation have ended." Miss Qiu's slightly dull voice came. 20 years have passed? It's really fast. It doesn't feel real at all. Lin Xu sighed. Looking at Miss Qiu, who seemed to have been standing outside the hibernation chamber without moving, Lin Xu asked, "When did you wake up?" 10 minutes earlier than you. Lin Xu nodded. As a bionic person, Miss Qiu cannot have an endless lifespan in theory like quantum computers such as Taiyin, Yinghe, and Kaiming. The lifespan of a bionic person is similar to that of a human being, which is also about 500 years. Therefore, in order to be able to accompany Lin Xu all the time, Miss Qiu will not die of old age before Lin Xu. When Lin Xu is in hibernation, Miss Qiu will also hibernate together. Master, your customized power armor has been delivered, and it has been nano-modified according to your requirements. Miss Qiu, who walked out of the core cabin of the Sky Dome space station behind Lin Xu, explained to Lin Xu. Are we there? Let's go and take a look. Lin Xu's eyes lit up and his steps quickened. Ever since he had stroked a lion in a power armor before hibernation, Lin Xu liked that feeling, although the power armor he wore at that time was just an old universal model from the 22nd century that was found in the warehouse. It was a bit bulky and couldn't fly. But Lin Xu still found a feeling of being as big as Tony's shit. So before entering the hibernation chamber, he took the time to describe his requirements and customize his own power armor. Soon, Lin Xu saw his customized power armor in the lobby of the Sky Dome space station. And it was a power armor that was transformed by nanotechnology with the latest technology in the late 23rd century, when the sailing calendar was about to begin. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. A set of ordinary casual clothes hanging on a hanger. Is this my power armor? Lin Xu looked at the clothes that looked like ordinary casual clothes, and there was something incredible in his eyes. Although he already knew that this was the appearance of the power armor after nanotechnology transformation, Lin Xu still couldn't believe it. He put on this casual clothes like normal clothes, except that the material was a little special and not like pure cloth. Whether it was the weight of the clothes or the degree of skin friendliness, they were like ordinary clothes. After putting them on, it was like wearing an ordinary casual clothes. However, as Lin Xu's mind moved, the casual clothes that received Lin Xu's brainwave activation command began to change in appearance. Small pieces of metal on the casual clothes appeared as if they grew out of thin air, and then these metal pieces merged with each other. In the blink of an eye, a set of power armor was worn on Lin Xu. It fits the body and looks very delicate, but its power is far more powerful than the bulky one he wore when petting the lion. Lin Xu looked down at the armor on his body, subconsciously reached out to test its power, and then stopped. After all, this is on the space station. Lin Xu suppressed his excitement and put the power armor away again. So in the blink of an eye, a set of power armor returned to the appearance of casual clothes. Lin Xu thought about it, and the casual clothes changed into a suit, then a hanfu, and then a military uniform. Finally, it turned back to casual clothes. Lin Xu was very satisfied with a nano-powered armor that could change its appearance at will. In this way, he would not even have to change his clothes in the future. If he wanted to wear any style, he could just change it. Miss Qiu, who was standing by, watched Lin Xu playing like a child for a long time and never disturbed him. It was not until Lin Xu realized that he seemed to be a little too excited that he stopped. This suit of armor can be used in space, right? Lin Xu suddenly thought. Yes. Miss Qiu replied. Then I can wear it directly and enter the atmosphere, right? Lin Xu's interest was aroused again. Yes. Miss Qiu replied concisely. You can follow me in the space fighter. I want to see with my own eyes what the Earth, with only 22 hours a day, has become like. Yes, Master. Chapter 6 The day Earth set sail. Flying in the outer space for the first time. After leaving the space station, the pitch-black void all around gave Lin Xu great psychological pressure. Fortunately, Miss Qiu followed behind him. This relieved him of a lot of psychological discomfort. Miss Qiu did not take the aerospace fighter, but like Lin Xu, she wore a set of power armor that fit her body, followed behind Lin Xu, and flew in the dark universe. This made Lin Xu a little embarrassed. At first, he thought that Miss Qiu could only take the aerospace fighter, but who knew that Miss Qiu had a power armor module in her body. As the companion bionic person of Lin Xu, the only human on the Earth, all the functions of Miss Qiu were built according to the highest configuration. Because the bionic person is a half biological and half mechanical body, the mechanical part of Miss Qiu's body is completely spared no effort. It is aggregated by nanorobots and can be flexibly transformed into various forms under Miss Qiu's control. Power armor is one of them, but Lin Xu didn't know it before. Lin Xu controlled the nano-powered armor, which was powered by nuclear fuel cells. The plasma thrusters on his feet ejected plasma to propel him toward the Earth's atmosphere. At the same time, behind Lin Xu, on the back of the originally smooth power armor, nanometal surged, generating a row of plasma thrusters, helping Lin Xu fly toward the Earth's atmosphere at a faster speed. Soon, Lin Xu entered the outermost exosphere of the atmosphere. While flying, the power armor also began to capture the meager oxygen in the exosphere to replenish the consumption of compressed oxygen in the armor. In this way, Lin Xu passed through the exosphere and the ionosphere, getting closer and closer to the surface of the Earth. The scenery in front of him became more and more magnificent. The golden sunlight filled the sea of clouds, carving out all kinds of strange clouds, like mountains, like waterfalls, and all kinds of strange things. Above the clouds was like another world. Finally, Lin Xu faced the sun and saw the sea, mountains, jungles, and everything else below. At this point, Lin Xu finally stopped diving and stood up in the air, spraying plasma from his feet. He just hovered in the air, observing this familiar yet somewhat strange Earth. Then, he saw it. He saw the sea where tides were almost non-existent and extremely calm. He saw the disorder of the climate between the mountains and the plains. And all this was because the moon was moving away. During the 20 years that Lin Xu was dormant, the moon had already completely moved away from the Earth and merged into the orbit of Mars. So, the Earth had changed in front of us. After a long time, Lin Xu sighed. Slightly turning the direction, Lin Xu flew towards the continental shelf in the northern hemisphere. Because only the Eurasian continent and the American continent in the northern hemisphere could withstand the huge thrust of the engine, the planetary engines, except for the steering engines around the equator, are all built in the northern hemisphere. Soon, a planetary engine that was much larger than Mount Everest and had been basically completed, with only the final capping, appeared in Lin Xu's sight. The huge aerospace transport ship that covered the sky was carrying planetary engine parts from various planetary factories in the solar system. Autonomous machinery was busy between the aerospace transport ship and the planetary engine, installing various prefabricated parts in place. In the entire northern hemisphere, tens of thousands of planetary engines and the huge aerospace transport ships running back and forth formed a vast industrial picture. Lin Xu just looked at all this from a distance, and there was an excited emotion echoing in his chest. Lin Xu took Miss Qiu and slowly landed on the plain near the Kindling Mountains. This place is near the Kindling ecological circle selected by Lin Xu. An ecological dome covering an area of 10 kilometers will cover this area, so that even when the Earth sails in the universe in the future, this place can still maintain its original ecology. In the distance, Huishan, in contrast to the huge ecological dome and the even larger planetary engine, is like a dwarf, and there is no sense of steepness at all. Lin Xu's power armor nano-transformed into an ordinary casual outfit, and he walked at the foot of Huishan. Miss Qiu followed him without saying a word. Because of the departure of the moon, the Earth's rotation speed has accelerated. Now the Earth has only about 22 hours a day. Soon the night fell, and without the moon, the whole Earth was dark, and you couldn't see your hand in front of you. However, looking up at the sky, the starry sky seemed particularly bright and dazzling. Unchanging. A month later, Kindling Mountains. On the verdant mountain peaks, next to the waterfall, there is a two-story wooden house built on the edge of the cliff. This wooden house looks antique, and the balcony on the second floor faces the cliff. You can see the mountains and rivers under the cliff, and the clouds and mists become smoke. Lin Xu sat on the balcony of this wooden house, but his eyes did not look at the scenery under the cliff, but looked up at the sky. The ecological dome there is closing. A large number of autonomous machines are like building blocks, installing prefabricated parts one by one on the pillars that meander upward around the ecological dome. Soon this ecological dome will be built. By then, this piece of mountains and rivers can still be preserved after the Earth stops rotating and sails away. The high mountains and flowing water below are the beauty of nature. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. The steel and machinery galloping in the sky are the beauty of big industry. At this moment, the two reached a different tacit understanding, and even Lin Xu was amazed. In the distance, you can see the planetary engines as high as tens of thousands of meters, ready to go, just waiting for Lin Xu's order. The 100,000 planetary engines on the entire Earth have been built, and only a few finishing touches are left. According to the reports of Taiyin, Yinghou and Kaiming, in another hour, Lin Xu can order the collective ignition of 100,000 planetary engines. Miss Qiu carried a bowl of freshly made pudding, stepped on the wooden steps, and came to the balcony on the second floor. She put the pudding on the wooden table next to Lin Xu, and then stood behind Lin Xu as always. Lin Xu has lived here for a month. In the past month, he has cultivated his character. Every day, he either sits on the balcony and watches the new TV series that came out after he went into hibernation 10,000 years ago. Or he stays in his room and plays brand new games 10,000 years ago. Miss Qiu takes care of his life all the time. In short, his life is quite enjoyable. It can be regarded as the realization of his ideal of lying flat. It is a bit tiring to always look up. Lin Xu stopped watching the ecological dome that was about to be capped, and lowered his head to continue watching the TV series on the tablet on his thigh. At the same time, he did not forget to take the pudding that Miss Qiu brought and eat it happily. Until Taiyin's voice came from an old radio that was placed on the table like a decoration. Human Lin Xu, everything is ready, and the planetary engine can be ignited at any time. Is it ready? Lin Xu was stunned. At this moment, Lin Xu's mood was a little complicated. Looking up at the sky, the ecological dome of the kindling ecosystem has been completely capped, and the originally busy self-disciplined machinery has withdrawn without him noticing. Then ignite it. Instantly, the entire northern hemisphere of the Earth, including the steering engines around the equator, ignited at the same time. A huge blue beam of light shot straight into the sky. From Lin Xu's angle, it looked like countless blue spears pointing to the sky. The Earth set sail. Chapter 7 Passing by Jupiter. The Earth is still rotating. The planetary engines in the northern hemisphere push the Earth forward and will not be disturbed by the Earth's rotation, because the Earth rotates from west to east. At this time, the Earth is like a sphere that is being pushed forward while rotating. At the same time, the steering engine built around the equator will also start, so that the Earth will slowly stop rotating while moving forward. This is the plan selected by Lin Xu after discussing with Taiyin, Yinghe, and Kaiming. Compared with the braking era, the progress will be faster. And the thrust generated by 100,000 planetary engines is enough to implement such a plan. There is no need to waste time. However, some time must be wasted. Although the thrust of 100,000 planetary engines is strong, it cannot directly push the Earth out of the solar system and escape the gravitational range of the Sun. The Earth still has to fly around the Sun 10 times to accelerate. In these 10 circles, each circle will become more and more elliptical and flat, until the 10th circle, it will completely leave the solar system. In these 10 circles, the first few circles, because of the propulsion of the planetary engine, the time spent on each circle will be much shorter than the 1 year when the Earth revolved around the Sun. But later, because each circle became more and more elliptical and farther away from the Sun, even with the thrust provided by the planetary engine, the time spent on each circle would be greater than the 1 year when the Earth revolved around the Sun normally. So one more and one less, it is expected to take about 10 years to complete these 10 circles. In other words, if nothing unexpected happens, 10 years after Lin Xu ordered the ignition, the Earth will be able to completely leave the solar system. The ecological dome of the kindling mountains has been activated. The huge ecological dome binds the air within a radius of 10 kilometers to prevent the air from escaping. However, the nuclear fusion artificial sun installed at the highest point of the ecological dome above has not been activated. After all, there is still a real sun, so Lin Xu wants to feel it for a while. Until Miss Qiu came to remind him again that the time was up. Master, the hibernation chamber is ready. Let's go. Lin Xu said, getting up from the second floor balcony of the wooden house. The wooden stairs creaked as I walked to the first floor. I pushed the door open and walked along the bamboo forest path. On one side was the mist from the waterfall, and on the other side was the steep mountain. After turning a few corners, a seemingly natural cave appeared in Lin Xu's sight. However, the cave was emitting a soft light. A maglev car slowly drove out of the mountain and stopped beside Lin Xu. Lin Xu got on the car and started it. Soon he drove out of a long corridor and came to a square-like hall deep inside the mountain. There were countless rooms and corridors in the hall. Those corridors led to various locations in the entire kindling ecosystem, just like the corridor that Lin Xu had just come from. And this is where the control center of the kindling ecosystem is located. The maglev car stopped in the center of the square-like hall. Lin Xu and Miss Qiu got off here, took the elevator in the center of the hall, and went down all the way. Only then did they arrive at the control room of the control center. The equipment terminals that control various functions of the ecological dome of the kindling ecosystem are all here. Even though the Ecodome is actually controlled by a quantum computer, there is no need for a control room. However, according to regulations, a control room and manual control equipment are still required. And Lin Xu does not intend to abolish this regulation. However, this is not Lin Xu's destination. The room next to the control room, where the hibernation chamber is placed, is the reason why Lin Xu came here. After all, it is necessary to hibernate in a place that is as safe as possible. And this time, Lin Xu's hibernation time is exactly 10 years. He wants to take one last look at the sun before the Earth completely leaves the solar system. When Lin Xu seemed to have taken a nap and woke up again under the greeting of Miss Qiu, the time had come to 10 years later. Master, the time is now 9,780 years of the departure calendar, and your 10-year hibernation time has ended. It still feels so fast. Lin Xu sighed again. 10 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and it doesn't feel real at all. Lin Xu left the control room and returned along the original route, back to the misty waterfall, and back to the cabin. Looking up at the highest point of the Ecodome above, the nuclear fusion artificial sun has been lit. The artificial sun is like a real sun, emitting light and heat, maintaining the ecological cycle of the kindling ecosystem. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. Looking around through the ecological dome, it seems that the outside of the ecological dome is still the original kindling mountains, and the sky still blue and white clouds. But Lin Xu knows that all this is just the external scenery simulated by the ecological dome. As for the real external scenery 10 years later, he can only wait for him to see it in person. The power armor started, and the clothes on Lin Xu's body were divided into countless nanorbits in the blink of an eye, combined into a close-fitting battle armor. Plasma flames sprayed from his feet, pushing Lin Xu to fly into the sky. Soon, Lin Xu came to the edge of the ecological dome. A gap appeared on the light curtain of the ecological dome. Lin Xu quickly passed through the gap, followed by Miss Qiu. The gap closed behind him, but Lin Xu had no time to look back. He was completely stunned by the scene in front of him. Even though he had expected it, when all this really appeared before his eyes, Lin Xu still sighed. Snow and ice, endless snow covered the earth. There were no trees on the familiar Huashan mountain in the distance, and the famous Changquan Plank Road and other attractions were also frozen by ice and snow. The entire kindling mountains, except for the part that was enclosed in the kindling ecosystem, were already dead silent. The sun can be seen here in the northern hemisphere, but the sun that once hung high in the sky and brought light and heat to mankind now seems to have shrunk countless times and is only the size of an orange. It emits a slightly dim light and hangs in the sky. Lin Xu knows that this is because it is too far away from the sun. Compared with the sun that emits light and heat, another celestial body now seems to be much larger than the sun. It is a huge star hanging at the other end of the sky, occupying nearly half of the sky. A huge star with colorful stripes on its surface, such as red, brown, and white. Is that Jupiter? Yes, we are passing by Jupiter. Miss Qiu replied. I remember there is a museum on Jupiter, right? Lin Xu suddenly thought of it. He had read about it in the literature and had always been curious about it. Do you want to visit it? Miss Qiu asked. Lin Xu was stunned for a moment. He never expected that Miss Qiu could hear the hidden meaning in his words. He felt that Miss Qiu was becoming more and more like a real intelligent life. Lin Xu nodded with relief. Let's go and have a look. Lin Xu was still very interested in the museum built on Jupiter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Autonomous Machinery. Jupiter looks very close, but it is actually still very far away. At least, it is definitely impossible to fly there with just power armor. Not to mention fuel, the oxygen that can be carried is not enough. So Lin Xu first boarded the aerospace fighter and came to the space station in low Earth orbit. Then at the space station, he changed to a space shuttle and headed towards Jupiter at a very fast speed. At this time, the outer space of the Earth is no longer as busy as it was 10 years ago. At that time, the planetary engine was still under construction, so various space transport ships traveled between the Earth and the factories on the major planets to transport the parts of the planetary engine to the Earth. The entire solar system is full of space transport ships and autonomous machines that shuttle back and forth. And now, with the official launch of the Earth, The factories on the major planets that produce planetary engine parts have also stopped working. Various space transport ships have all retracted back to the Earth and docked in low Earth orbit. Even the autonomous machines that were originally spread throughout the solar system have all retracted back to the Earth. Some of them have combined themselves into huge entities that are either spherical, cubic, or triangular, and are also docked in low Earth orbit. Another part landed on the Earth, and they also combined themselves into huge entities that were either spherical, cube-shaped, or triangular, quietly hidden deep underground or under the frozen ocean ice. Lin Xu sat in the seat of the space shuttle, and Miss Qiu sat behind him. The space shuttle was not big, not much bigger than a car, and could only seat a few people. This made Lin Xu wonder whether he should get a ship or something like that in the future, even if it was just a modified transport ship. Otherwise, it would be too cramped to sit in this shuttle. As for taking the transport ship directly, Lin Xu had just considered it, but the problem was that the transport ship was not powerful enough and the speed was too slow. It could only be used to transport goods. And it couldn't land on the planet, it could only dock in space. That's right, space transport ships can't land on the ground. If they enter the atmosphere, they will be captured by the gravity of the planet. And these space transport ships simply don't have enough power devices to push the transport ships to get rid of the planet's gravity and rise back into space. At the beginning of their design, their role was not to travel between the ground and space, but to transport goods in the universe. Of course, Lin Xu could also add enough power to these transport ships, but from the perspective of cost-effectiveness, it was not necessary at all. They only needed to complete the function of transporting goods between the universe. For example, now, Lin Xu was looking at the scenery outside the window through the shuttle. You can see the densely packed space transport ships parked in the low Earth orbit above the Earth. Each of these space transport ships is larger than an aircraft carrier, and hundreds of them are docked in an airport. At the airport, there is a cable connecting the sky and the Earth, which is the airspace cable. It extends all the way to the ground. It is also relying on this airspace cable that the space transport ships docked at each airport can drag the airport and these space transport ships when the Earth is propelled by the planetary engine to move with the Earth. Otherwise, these space transport ships would have been left behind by the Earth long ago. Besides the space transport ships, there were also various autonomous mechanical aggregates docked in the countless airports anchored to the ground by airspace cables. They were huge entities formed by countless autonomous machines, some spherical, some cubic, and some triangular. They were also docked in the airports. When Lin Xu's space shuttle passed through a certain airport, the autonomous mechanical aggregates docked on it suddenly began to change. The huge spherical entity, which was originally as huge as an aircraft carrier, suddenly began to move regularly on its surface. With a mechanical sound of kaka-kaka, the huge spherical entity instantly disintegrated into countless various autonomous machines. Some of them were as big as buildings, and some were as small as matchboxes. After these autonomous machines disintegrated, they immediately reassembled together. However, they had changed their appearance and were no longer spherical. Instead, they became cones with various weapons such as laser cannons, plasma cannons, and electromagnetic cannons densely packed on the surface. At the same time, a huge beam of light was ejected from the back of the cone. It caught up with Lin Xu's space shuttle. There are a dozen of these cones, each the size of an aircraft carrier. They surround and escort Lin Xu's car-sized space shuttle, heading towards Jupiter. They are not battleships, or it would be more appropriate to describe them as weapon aggregates. Weapons, weapons, only weapons. The latest novels are first published on 69 Shuba. It is unreasonable to gather countless weapons together, just like installing 30 cannons on a tank. If it were not for the autonomous machines that can gather in separate at any time, such freaks would not exist. And these autonomous machines, which are like weapon aggregates, also bring a great sense of security to Lin Xu in the space shuttle. Suddenly, I feel that it doesn't matter if I don't have a spaceship. What kind of spaceship can compare to the escort of autonomous machines? No wonder humans 10,000 years ago did not have any weapons such as space battleships, and at most they had some transport ships. With autonomous machines, why do we need space battleships? You can assemble any weapon you want at any time. You can fight when necessary and build at ordinary times. It's just as amazing as the production and construction core. It can be said that these autonomous machines are the greatest invention of human civilization in the 23rd century. It is also because of autonomous machines that humans can build enough long-distance spacecraft for all mankind in the 23rd century. I don't know how humans have developed such an amazing thing as autonomous machines. It can only be attributed to another technological explosion of humans. Under the protection of more than a dozen aircraft carrier-sized weapon aggregates, Lin Xu took a space shuttle and arrived at Jupiter in about half a day. As he got closer and closer to Jupiter, the oppressive feeling brought by the huge celestial body that blocked the entire field of vision made Lin Xu a little nervous. Soon, the shuttle arrived at Europa, a Jupiter satellite covered with ice and snow. It is also the location of the Jupiter Museum. There is no need to wear a spacesuit. Lin Xu's clothes are directly converted into power armor. Just like that, he took Miss Qiu and walked directly out of the cabin of the shuttle. Of course, Lin Xu still brought some extra things. In order to prevent the compressed oxygen in the power armor from being not practical enough, Lin Xu controlled the power armor and incorporated the extra oxygen backpack into the armor. This made the back of the power armor look a little bloated. But if you don't look closely, it's actually no different from before. P.S. Follow-up reading is important, really important. Only if you follow up enough, the book can be recommended, can you achieve results, and I can have the energy to write better, so don't wait for the new book period. Please help me to follow up every day. Thank you. Chapter 9 Jupiter Museum. Europa is covered with ice and snow, but it is not desolate. Especially the place where Lin Xu landed. Various factories, tall factory buildings, and towering blast furnaces show that this is not a wild place. And all these factories were built on the major planets in the solar system by various autonomous machines after Lin Xu decided to build 100,000 planetary engines 30 years ago. Now with the completion of the construction of the planetary engines, these factories have naturally stopped working. However, the museum that Lin Xu wants to go to is not here. It is inside Europa. In other words, the entire interior of Europa is a huge museum. Taking the elevator and going down, soon a huge museum that occupies the entire interior space of Europa appeared in front of Lin Xu. Once this Jupiter Museum was a tourist attraction in the 23rd century. Later, with the departure of humans, many collections in this museum were also taken away. Just like the Palace Museum, many collections were also taken on the long-distance fleet. But there are still many things that cannot be taken away. For example, the architectural frame of the entire museum. Is this museum so big? Lin Xu looked at the huge museum that occupied most of the interior space of the entire planet. You know, Europa is only slightly smaller than the Moon. For such a large planet, most of its interior has been hollowed out and used as a museum. Lin Xu only knew that there was a museum on Jupiter before, but he had never heard that it was so exaggerated. Master, this was originally an alien spaceship. After humans discovered this place, they transformed it into a museum. Miss Qiu cleared Lin Xu's doubts. On the way here, she had already consulted a lot of information about this museum and was ready to answer Lin Xu's doubts at any time. Alien spaceship? Have humans ever come into contact with aliens? Lin Xu was stunned. He didn't know such important information before. Before the start of the voyage, humans had no contact with aliens. What was found here was just a long-abandoned spaceship. It is speculated that the history of this spaceship may have been hundreds of millions of years. Everything inside has been destroyed, leaving only an empty shell frame. Later, humans built a museum in this frame. Miss Qiu answered. As for whether humans have had contact with aliens since the beginning of the voyage, Miss Qiu didn't know. Hundreds of millions of years. That is to say, the formation of the satellite Europa was based on this spaceship with only an empty shell frame left. Lin Xu looked at the huge museum with emotion. Yes, Europa was formed slowly after hundreds of millions of years of meteorite impact on the basis of this spaceship. Miss Qiu proved Lin Xu's guess. However, after Lin Xu was silent for a moment, he suddenly spoke. Is it really only the outer shell of the spaceship left? Humans got nothing in this alien spaceship. In the information I checked, there is no mention that humans have obtained anything useful here, whether it is technology or equipment, except stones. Miss Qiu replied. Except stones? What is that? Lin Xu asked. Not sure, there is no detailed explanation in the information. Taiyin, do you know? Lin Xu asked instead. Through the communication device and the power armor, Lin Xu can naturally communicate with Taiyin, Yinghe, and Kaiming, whose main bodies are still on Earth, at any time. The entry explaining the stone in the database has been deleted. I suspect it is some kind of code name. Taiyin replied. Code name. Although there is no explanation for the stone, there are 3 stones stored in the human civilization cemetery plan on Earth. Civilization cemetery plan. Lin Xu felt that he had more and more doubts today. But it was normal. After all, Lin Xu had been asleep for 10,000 years. Even if he had tried his best to understand what happened later after waking up, it was impossible for him to understand everything in detail. It is normal to have many unknown things. The human civilization cemetery plan is a tomb built by humans for themselves on Earth before setting sail. There are permanent images of human civilization, as well as some creations that have affected the progress of human civilization at various key nodes, including 3 stones. Did they build a tomb for themselves before setting off? How determined they are. Lin Xu sighed. After thinking about it, Lin Xu asked again. Is the cemetery on Earth? The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. Yes, it is at the top of Mount Everest. Taiyin answered. Lin Xu nodded. He had decided to go back and get the 3 stones to see what they were. As for taking burial objects, it is not good. I am also a human being. What's wrong with taking my own burial objects? Afterwards, Lin Xu continued to visit the Jupiter Museum. Although most of the precious collections have been taken away by the long-distance fleet, the remaining collections still amaze Lin Xu. In particular, the fragments of spacecraft used by various humans in the process of conquering the solar system have been pieced together again to form a complete spacecraft. The entire spacecraft is stored in a museum. Fortunately, the museum is large enough, occupying the huge space inside the entire Europa, otherwise it really can't be accommodated. Of these spacecraft fragments, the important ones were taken away by humans, but most of them were left behind. In the end, Lin Xu even ordered several space transport ships to be mobilized from the Earth, and let the autonomous machines select some of the remaining collections in the Jupiter Museum that humans did not bring on the long-distance fleet, and move them back to Earth. It was not until a few days later, when the Earth flew farther and farther, that Lin Xu stopped moving. Even so, there are still many collections left in the Jupiter Museum. After all, it is a museum that occupies the interior of the entire planet. The vast amount of collections inside is not so easy to take away. I just hope that in the unknown future, when the Earth returns, this museum will continue to exist. At this time, Lin Xu, who had already returned to Earth, also got the 3 items code-named stones. They are called stones, but in fact they have nothing to do with stones. They are 3 perfect diamond-shaped objects the size of bottle caps. The inside seems to be a chaos. Just staring at them, it seems as if the whole soul is about to be sucked in. Lin Xu studied them for several days, but he still couldn't figure out what they were. In the end, I had to put it aside for the time being. Chapter 10 Emergency Awakening from 1,000 Years of Dormancy. In an ancient courtyard in Yanjing City, Lin Xu sat on a recliner in the middle of the courtyard, watching the clouds in the sky and listening to the old record playing in the phonograph not far away. The sun hanging in the center of the sky, the sun shining on the body warm, just like millions of years ago, when the Earth was still revolving around the sun. However, the reality is that the sun in the sky is just a simulation of the nuclear fusion simulation sun in the ecological dome. Cities all over the world have basically been frozen in ice, and only a few cities have been preserved by Lin Xu as urban ecosystems. Yanjing City is one of them. Miss Qiu, wearing a maid outfit, black silk and absolute domain under her short skirt, came slowly, holding a cup of pudding milk tea in her hand, and placed it on the small table next to Lin Xu. On the table, you can also see fruits such as grapes and bananas, as well as the 3 perfect diamond-shaped objects the size of bottle caps. Lin Xu has been studying them, although there has been no progress. But he always felt that this thing was not simple, so he didn't throw it directly to Taiyin, Yinghe, Kaiming and others to do any destructive experiments. Thank you. Lin Xu said casually, picked up the pudding milk tea with a straw and prepared to drink it. Compared with pearl milk tea, he still prefers pudding. However, before he put the straw into his mouth, he was stunned. Your maid outfit? Lin Xu asked in surprise. Master, don't you like it? I like it very much. As long as the master likes it. Miss Qiu said with a twitch of her mouth. Lin Xu knew that she wanted to try to smile, but it was a pity that she didn't do it well. Master, the preparations for hibernation are ready. While Lin Xu was drinking milk tea, Miss Qiu talked about business. 1,000 years, it will be 1,000 years before I wake up again. Lin Xu sighed. Then he asked, by the way, where are we flying now? Just past Neptune. We are about to leave the solar system. Lin Xu sighed again. He drank the milk tea in his hand and stood up. Let's go, let's take one last look at the sun. Outside the city of Yanjing, above the frozen land, a huge planetary engine ejected a blue beam of light into the sky. Below the planetary engine was the winding Great Wall and mountains. Lin Xu, wearing a power armor, stood on a section of the Great Wall, looking up at the sky, where the sun had shrunk to the size of a ping-pong ball. Miss Qiu accompanied him behind him. Until Lin Xu let out a long breath. Go back, and you'll be in the Proxima system when you wake up. The distance from the solar system to the Proxima system is 4.3 light years. 10,000 years ago, the long-distance fleet took 500 years to travel this distance. Today, the entire Earth is heading to the Proxima system, and the speed is naturally not as fast as the long-distance fleet. It takes a full 1,000 years. But considering that it is a planet, this speed is quite fast. Anyway, for Lin Xu, no matter how long it takes, it's just a matter of sleeping, so he doesn't think 1,000 years is unacceptable. Lin Xu still remembers that there was an old song called 1,000 Years Later. Although he was already 10,000 years later, he still felt very touched about another 1,000 years later. However, what Lin Xu did not expect was that when he woke up from the hibernation chamber again, it was not 1,000 years later, but 900 years later. And he was awakened because of an emergency. Is it already 1,000 years later? Lin Xu felt as if he had just closed his eyes and was awakened immediately afterwards. He looked at Miss Qiu outside the hibernation chamber and sighed. I'm sorry, Master, only 900 years have passed. It is now 10,680 years of the sailing calendar. You were awakened urgently. Emergency awakening? What happened? Lin Xu was startled and asked hurriedly. Master, let me explain to you next. Yinghero's voice sounded. We found an autonomous mechanical aggregate. It seems that it was released for reconnaissance when humans stopped at the Proxima Galaxy. Later, as humans left the Proxima Galaxy and resumed their voyage, this autonomous machine was permanently in standby mode. It should have been on standby for 10,000 years now. If we can restart this autonomous machine, its internal database will be of great help to us in understanding what humans did in the Proxima Galaxy 10,000 years ago. Then start it up. Is there any problem with calling me up? Lin Xu asked puzzledly. This requires your authorization. The latest novels are first published on the 6th 9-book bar. After coming out of the hibernation chamber and returning to his courtyard in Yanjing, Lin Xu finally understood what was going on after Yinghero's explanation. As a high-level artificial intelligence quantum computer, this kind of lone autonomous machine can naturally be activated at any time. However, Lin Xu's authorization is needed to take over the control program of the autonomous machine. Only humans can make decisions on the disposal of human property. After understanding all this, Lin Xu immediately authorized Yinghero. So not long after, Yinghero completed the takeover of the lone autonomous machine. Lin Xu even sat on the recliner in the courtyard and watched a live broadcast. The holographic image projected in the courtyard clearly showed that in the dark universe, a spherical entity the size of an aircraft carrier suddenly began to move regularly on its surface. The spherical entity disintegrated into countless autonomous machines of varying sizes, and then these autonomous machines self-assembled into a huge cone. However, there were no weapons on the surface of this cone, but the engine jet behind the cone was even larger. Accompanied by the unusually thick beam of light, this autonomous machine aggregate chased the fast-moving Earth. At this time, the Earth had entered a deceleration phase of 150 years after 150 years of acceleration and 700 years of gliding. But the speed is still very fast. There is no way to stop it at will. Naturally, it is impossible to wait for it. It can only be caught up by itself. Lin Xu watched the live broadcast in its entirety. In order to let him see more clearly, the artificial sun in the sky was even adjusted to a dim state and turned into an artificial moon. It was not until Lin Xu finished watching that it returned to the sun mode and illuminated the Earth again. Since he had woken up, Lin Xu planned to continue to hibernate in a few days. So a few days later, he got the brief situation of the Proxima Galaxy sorted out by Yinghero from the database of the autonomous machinery. Although it was the situation 10,000 years ago, Looking at one of the messages, Lin Xu's face was strange. Before humans left 10,000 years ago, they left some bionic people in the curvature engine factory of the Proxima Galaxy to look after the factory. Are these bionic people fertile? Lin Xu asked. It's not shown in the data. Yinghuo replied. Chapter 11 Paradise. Carl walked through the alleys crisscrossed by various pipes, carefully avoiding the sewage dripping from the pipes. As for the sewage pits on the ground, it didn't matter. His shoes had high heels, so he wouldn't get his shoes dirty if he stepped into the sewage. It was already morning, and the sky of the paradise had already lit up. But this was only the lower area of the paradise, so the light here was only dim and dim. Legend has it that in ancient times when the gods had not yet fallen asleep, the light of the paradise could be extremely bright even in the lower area. But now only the nobles and wealthy factory owners in the upper area can enjoy the bright daylight. But Carl was very content. He was lucky to be able to live in the paradise instead of being driven out of the paradise and freezing to death in the white hell. And if he could pass the exam and become a senior mechanic, maybe one day he could move to the upper area to live. But Carl also had a lot of doubts and puzzles. He didn't understand why the nobles could live in the bright and clean upper area, while people like him could only struggle in the dirty and dim lower area. They were all allowed by God to live in God's paradise, so why were there such big differences between them? Of course, he would not speak out these doubts. Because even if he did, everyone would only think that he had a problem with his brain. It was natural for nobles and factory owners to live in the upper class. But Carl always felt that this was not right. Passing through the alleys full of various pipes, people covered in dirt could be seen from time to time on the road, sitting directly in the sewage to beg. The street vendors selling black bread would quietly ask him if he wanted to buy wine when they saw that Carl was dressed a little decent. They could sell it to him, but the price was a bit high. Carl walked through the complex alleys full of pipes above and came to the library on the street. He greeted the gatekeeper and walked in. Carl was a librarian in the library. He cherished this job very much, because this job not only allowed him to earn money to support his livelihood, but also allowed him to check various materials in the library for free. After greeting his colleagues, Carl started his daily work. First, he sorted the books returned by borrowers and put them back on the bookshelf. Then he sorted the bookshelf and did some cleaning. From time to time, borrowers would come to ask where the books they wanted to borrow were. Carl responded one by one, and time passed quickly. It was not until near noon that Carl finally had some free time. Then he found the book about mechanical maintenance that he had not finished reading last time and started reading it. Carl was so absorbed in reading that he did not notice that there was a strange booklet with a red cover next to it, which was placed there by someone. It was not until someone called him when they wanted to return a book that Carl saw it. He asked the people around him, but no one noticed where this book, which obviously did not belong to the library, came from. So Carl flipped through it with curiosity. There was a piece of paper in the book, which explained that this booklet was not lost, but was given to him anonymously by someone. At the same time, it also briefly introduced the origin of this booklet. Carl was still smiling at first, but as the content of the note appeared, Carl's face began to change. He looked around quietly, and while no one was paying attention, he quickly put the booklet into his arms. Just doing this seemed to have consumed a lot of his strength, making him sweat profusely. Carl felt as if he had a time bomb in his arms, but he didn't dare to throw the booklet away easily. After all, if it was found that he threw the thing away, he would not be able to clear himself. If it was really as written on the note, the booklet contained forbidden knowledge. He could be prepared to be driven out of paradise and freeze to death in the white hell. On the way home after get off work, he would find a place to throw it away. Carl made such a decision. So the rest of the working time was like a year for Carl. He was very careful in everything he did, for fear that the booklet in his arms would fall out and be discovered. It was not until after get off work that Carl hurried home. But as he got closer and closer to home, Carl put his hand into his arms, but hesitated again. As a person who loves reading very much, Carl really wants to know what this so-called forbidden knowledge is and why the gods forbid anyone in the paradise to touch it. He only knows that the forbidden knowledge comes from the old rulers. Anyone who has read the forbidden knowledge will be polluted by the thoughts of the old days and can no longer be a loyal lamb of the gods. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Hesitantly, Carl did not throw away the booklet after all, and just walked back home. Carl lives alone. He rented a small room of only 3 square meters. Although the room is small, He is already very satisfied. At least there is a bed here, instead of sharing a room with a few people like many hard workers, and then taking turns to sleep. Who makes the space in the paradise limited, and the population is increasing. In order not to become a homeless person sleeping on the street and then be driven into the white hell by the nobles, everyone's living area can only become smaller and smaller. Sitting on his small bed, Carl could hear the snoring of the person next door. It was a room of only 2 square meters, which was smaller than Carl's room, and 2 people shared the room and could only take turns sleeping. So happiness is compared. Compared with the neighbor, Carl felt that he was already very happy. In this case, if he fell and was abandoned by the gods because of watching taboo knowledge. Carl's eyes shone in the dark room. His forehead was full of sweat. But in the end, Carl made up his mind, took a coin from his pocket, and put it into the gas meter on the wall. With a sound of clicking, the mechanical gears full of dirt and oil turned. Carl turned the switch, the flint rubbed, and lit the gas lamp. In the whole apartment, only a few rooms have such billing gas lamps, and Carl's room belongs to this rare high-end room. After all, his room is 3 square meters. But Carl rarely lights this gas lamp. He doesn't want to spend money on it. If he wants to read a book, he can just go to the library. But today's booklet cannot be read in the library. With fear and inexplicable excitement, Carl finally took out a booklet from his arms and looked at the words on the cover. XXX Manifesto. Chapter 12, Advent on the White Star. Master, you are awake. It is now the 10,780th year of the departure calendar. Your 100-year hibernation period has ended. Miss Qiu stood in front of the hibernation chamber and greeted Lin Xu with the same words as always. It seems that there was no accident this time. Lin Xu, who woke up in the hibernation chamber, said with a smile. Then he asked, "Are we there yet?" "We have arrived at the Proxima galaxy and are merging into the orbit around Proxima, Master." Miss Qiu replied. "Okay. Humans originally built a factory on the 5th planet, so let's temporarily build the 6th planet of the Proxima galaxy." At this time, the usefulness of the information obtained from the autonomous mechanical aggregate 100 years ago was shown. If it were not for this information, Lin Xu would not be able to know where humans built a curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity equipment factory. At that time, it would be very time-consuming to search the entire Proxima galaxy. You know, although the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity equipment factory are definitely not small, the entire galaxy is also very large. In this way, under Lin Xu's command, the entire Earth began to move towards the location of the 5th planet. Of course, it must not be too close to the 5th planet, otherwise the gravity of both sides will attract each other, and the 2 planets will collide with each other, and that would be the end. Therefore, the Earth can only temporarily act as the 6th planet of the Proxima system at a certain distance from the 5th planet. At the same time, Lin Xu once again looked through the information about the 5th planet of the Proxima system. This planet is about the same size as the Earth, and its distance from the star Proxima Centauri in the Proxima system, that is, the Sun, is much farther than the distance from the Sun when the Earth was in the solar system. According to calculations, the Sun seen on the 5th planet is only half the size of the Sun seen by the Earth in the solar system. Therefore, the entire 5th planet is cold all year round and is an icy planet. So the Earthlings who built the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity equipment factory on this planet gave this planet a straightforward name, which is called the White Star. It can also be regarded as a commemoration of the first planet that humans landed on during their voyage. Until later, humans discovered that the White Star was not frozen all year round. In every White Star year, that is, in one White Star revolution cycle, there is about 2 months on the White Star, and there will be a short period of civilization on the White Star. Some algae and single-cell life will tenaciously reproduce during these 2 months. This is also the first time that humans have discovered signs of life on an alien planet. The humans at that time were very encouraged, which means that the appearance of life on the Earth in the solar system is not a coincidence with a very small probability. In the entire universe, life should be more common, even if it is not necessarily a high-level intelligent life. Even now, when Lin Xu looked at these materials, he seemed to feel the emotions of the people on Earth at that time. Later, humans built a large-scale curvature engine factory and a slightly smaller anti-gravity equipment factory on the White Star. It took 100 years to transform the long-distance fleet with anti-gravity equipment, making it more suitable for human survival, and replaced the curvature engine for the long-distance fleet. Only then did humans bid farewell to the white star and set out on the journey again. It was just that before leaving, it might be out of affection for the white star, the first alien planet where humans stopped. Humans left behind an ecological dome and 300 bionic people living in it. The task of these bionic people is to guard the factories left by humans on this planet. Of course, they are not required to maintain equipment or anything like that. They don't even have the authority to enter the sealed factories. They just guard the factories. Just like a bankrupt factory, there is always an old man guarding the gate. Master, the aerospace fighter has arrived. Still in the courtyard, Miss Qiu appeared behind Lin Xu and said, "Let's go." Lin Xu stood up from the recliner. On the small table next to him, there were some fruits and the 3 diamond-shaped objects. "Master, do you really want to go in person?" Miss Qiu said a little worriedly. "I already know where the factory is, but if I want to open the factory and take over everything in the factory smoothly, I have to come in person." Miss Qiu was silent. Because this is the truth. Taiyin, Yinghe, Kaiming, these advanced artificial intelligences, although they are human creations, have no right to directly take over the huge factory facilities left by humans on the white star. Only Lin Xu, a human, can take over everything smoothly if he comes in person. Only humans can make decisions on the disposal of human property. And this is different from the control of the autonomous mechanical aggregate that Yinghe took over 100 years ago. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. It is just an autonomous mechanical aggregate with a very low priority. Yinghe could have directly controlled it, but because there was no authorization from Lin Xu, Yinghe could not do so legally. So only Lin Xu's authorization is needed. But now it is a huge factory cluster that humans had to put all their efforts to build 10,000 years ago. This factory cluster must also have its own artificial intelligence, and there may be other advanced artificial intelligences like Taiyin. So Lin Xu only authorized the advanced artificial intelligence on his side, which would definitely not be accepted by the advanced artificial intelligence on the other side. Unless he personally came forward and let the advanced artificial intelligence on the other side confirm his identity, they would cooperate. So Lin Xu had to go to White Star in person. The aerospace fighter took off, carrying Lin Xu straight into the sky, and once again came to the familiar Xiankong orbital space station. Compared with the densely packed airports throughout the Earth's near-Earth orbit, Lin Xu still prefers this place. Because at least there is artificial gravity here, even if it is artificial gravity created by centrifugal force. At least it is more comfortable to stay here. Anyway, when the anti-gravity equipment factory is obtained, Lin Xu must install it in these airports first. No, with anti-gravity equipment, the transport ships in the sky, and the autonomous mechanical aggregates, they can all be installed with anti-gravity devices and land directly on the Earth. Why do we need airports? Various ideas were running around in his mind. Lin Xu got on the familiar space shuttle, and Miss Qiu was still sitting behind him. After all, Lin Xu still didn't have his own flagship. But it doesn't matter. More than a dozen aircraft carrier-side, conical autonomous mechanical aggregates with gun barrels all over them followed and escorted. It can give Lin Xu a better sense of security than a flagship. In this way, the space shuttle carried Lin Xu towards the white planet in front, the white star, which was already the size of a wash basin because the distance was close enough. Chapter 13, The Broken Ecodome. Our cause is the most noble cause in the world. For freedom. All poor brothers unite. Undercurrents surged in the paradise. This included Carl. 10 years had passed since he first came into contact with forbidden knowledge and learned how the nobles and factory owners exploited the residents of the lower districts by occupying the means of production. Now Carl, in the words of the masters of the upper district, has been completely polluted and hopeless, and can no longer bathe in the grace of the gods. But Carl doesn't care. Fuck the gods, as the song recorded in the Forbidden Knowledge sings, there is no savior in this world. To create happiness for the poor, we can only rely on ourselves. As for the god who has been sleeping for who knows how long, Carl now even began to doubt the authenticity of his existence. Is there really a god in this world? Did the god not exist from the beginning? From the beginning, it was just the noble masters of the upper district who made it up to better rule the lower district. Use the so-called gods to imprison our souls and put shackles on us. Mr. Carl, congratulations on finally becoming a special mechanic and being able to get in touch with a giant god. Yes, as long as we can find the secret of the giant god, then those nobles will no longer be invincible. What special mechanic? They are just running dogs of the nobles. Mr. Carl is for our cause. Running dogs are running dogs, and the giant god is just a boast. As long as we unite, how can we not beat a mere machine? That's right, we have already got a production line of guns, and now we have secretly stored 1,000 guns. What about the giant god? No matter how powerful it is, there are only a dozen of them. We can't kill those nobles with them. Another secret gathering ended in displeasure. The rapidly expanding number of people made some people start to forget themselves and overestimate their own strength. Some people advocated to take action immediately and overthrow the nobles in the upper district. Some people advocated to continue to lie dormant and accumulate strength. They broke up in displeasure several times. Finally, the radicals decided not to wait. They decided to take action on their own. So, at the corners of the alleys in the lower district, under the pipes dripping with sewage, and even in the sewers under the lower district, people quietly gathered together and distributed guns. Their number was small, only a few hundred people. Compared with the entire paradise, with a population of millions, a few hundred people seemed nothing. But they were the spark. They believed that as long as they raised the banner of resistance, more poor brothers would naturally unite. And in the paradise, poor brothers accounted for the vast majority. As long as they united, they would definitely be able to defeat those noble lords. Mr. Carl, should we stop them? It can't be stopped. At this point, no one can stop them. There was deep worry in Carl's eyes. As a special mechanic, Carl was qualified to have close contact with a giant god soldier. Although he was only under strict surveillance, assisting the mechanics among the nobles to maintain the giant god soldier. Because of this, he knew more clearly how powerful the giant god soldier was. It was not something that could be defeated by just a few hundred people with guns. It could even be said that just one giant god soldier could easily massacre these hundreds of people. Their guns couldn't even penetrate the shell of the giant god. Otherwise, how could the nobles rely on the giant god to suppress countless people who resisted them generation after generation? In this small world with a population of over 1 million, there has never been a lack of oppression and resistance. The space shuttle that Lin Xu was riding on broke through the atmosphere of the White Star and landed towards the interior of the White Star. More than a dozen autonomous mechanical aggregates also changed into a form that was more suitable for passing through the atmosphere and landing, following Lin Xu and landing on the ground together. It was like a dozen meteors streaking across the sky, leaving deep traces on the sky. Of course, Lin Xu was not the first to arrive at the White Star. The latest novel is first published on the 6th book bar. Before him, there were already autonomous mechanical aggregates that had landed on the White Star one step earlier and completed the initial reconnaissance. It was only after the investigation that it was confirmed that there was no danger that Lin Xu landed immediately. In short, it was impossible for Lin Xu to go ahead. Over there is the ecological dome. The shuttle passed through the thick clouds, and Lin Xu looked at the frozen land below. The only place that was different from the others was immediately highlighted. He made a magnifying gesture on the porthole of the shuttle. The shuttle looked like a window, but it was actually a display device that projected the outside world in real time. It immediately magnified the ecological dome in the distance so that Lin Xu could see it more clearly. The light of the artificial sun in the ecological dome was all emitted inward, and it could not be seen by the outside world. Naturally, Lin Xu could not see the artificial sun's light, which was actually very dim. But just by looking at the appearance of the ecological dome, Lin Xu could see that the ecological dome had been repaired for tens of thousands of years and had already been extremely dilapidated. How many people do they have now? Lin Xu's tone was a little complicated. After the investigation of the drone released by the autonomous mechanical aggregate, Lin Xu now knew that the 300 bionic people left by humans actually left descendants. And they are still multiplying and thriving. There is no precise data for the time being, but it is certain that it has far exceeded the theoretical carrying limit of the ecological dome. Miss Qiu replied. Have they discovered us? Lin Xu asked again. No. Miss Qiu replied. They didn't discover this. Lin Xu was surprised. The descendants of those bionic people seemed to have no interest in the area outside the ecological dome, and they didn't pay any attention to any information from the outside world. Even the addition of the Earth in the sky, such a huge planet like a wash basin, has not been discovered by them until now. The sealed ecological dome protects them and restricts them. They have been hiding under the false dome for too long and have completely forgotten to look at the outside world. However, this may also be related to their living environment. In their cognition, there is only endless ice and snow in the outside world. Except for the only 2 months of time when the ice and snow melt each year, it is time to go out to collect and gather food. In the rest of the time, there is no need to pay attention to the outside world. There is even no interest in taking a look. Who would pay special attention to it? Not to mention, at this moment in the paradise, there is still an exciting singing life. Chapter 14 White Star Assets Committee. The sound of gunfire continued to come like popping beans. The fire began to spread in the lower district. The resistance army composed of countless poor brothers rushed towards the passage leading to the upper district with rifles in their hands. Surrounding the passage, the long-decayed guards were operating machine guns with fear and trembling hearts to guard the passage. Obviously, these guards were the ones who had the advantage in firepower, but facing the workers who were pouring in like a tide and the bullets flying from time to time, they were terrified, as if they would abandon the machine guns and run away at any time. For them, taking bribes and oppressing the residents of the lower district are naturally good. But if they really risked their lives to fight, they became turtles one by one. Facing the poor brothers with overwhelming morale, they knew that using machine guns to suppress firepower was already the limit of courage. If nothing unexpected happened, it would not take long before they would completely collapse and completely give the passage to the resistance army. Until the huge humanoid giant god soldier came. According to legend, the giant god soldier is the ultimate weapon given by the gods. It was also thanks to the giant gods that the nobles were able to maintain their rule from generation to generation. No matter how corrupt and backward they were, they still held on to power. With a bang, the giant gods descended from the upper area to the lower area, and with 1 foot, they crushed a dozen poor brothers of the resistance army who were charging in the front into meat paste. They completely ignored the bullets that were fired from all directions. These bullets hit the body of the giant gods, and it was not even as good as being bitten by a mosquito, and it was completely unable to break through the defense. At the same time, the giant gods raised their huge arms, and a blazing ray shot out from the back of their hands. The rays on the backs of both hands violently crossed the ground, burning the ground directly into hot magma, and at the same time, all the life they encountered was directly carbonized. As a result, countless resistance soldiers were turned into black charcoal without even a scream. The guards who were hiding behind them suddenly boosted their morale and cheered. And the poor brothers of the resistance army could only move in small pieces under the slaughter of the giant gods. Thus, a grand uprising failed in a flash under the suppression of the giant gods. More giant gods entered the lower area. The arrogant guards, under the pressure of the giant gods, began to search the entire lower area. The doors of each house were smashed open. It was more appropriate to say that it was a robbery than a search. People who had nothing to do with the rebels were dragged out and killed on the street as suspicious elements. As the saying goes, it is better to kill 1,000 people by mistake than to let one go. There were even officers from the upper area who came down to command a large-scale search and shouted the slogan that stones should be burned and people should be replaced. Anyway, the population in the paradise has long been overpopulated, and it is also good to kill a group of them to make some room. Lin Xu landed about 100 kilometers away from the ecological dome. On the scale of the planet, this is very close to the ecological dome. But on the specific geographical scale, Lin Xu can't see the ecological dome from here anyway. I won't pay attention to what happened over there. For Lin Xu, there are only some descendants of bionic people living there. But after thousands of years of evolution, it is difficult to say that those descendants have any relationship with bionic people, let alone humans. Or it would be more accurate to call them white stars. In this case, it is better for each to live in peace. Although the drone detected some information, such as chaotic crowds, fierce gunshots and flames. But this information has too low a priority. Unless Lin Xu asks, Taiyin will not take the initiative to report to Lin Xu. After all, this is not an important matter. Unless it is information related to Lin Xu's safety, or information related to the curvature engine factory or the anti-gravity equipment factory, it will be reported to Lin Xu. Not all information is qualified to be presented to Lin Xu at the first time. And even if Lin Xu knew that there was chaos in the ecological dome, he would not interfere with other people's internal affairs at will without knowing the reason. After all, as a higher-level civilization, it is not good to interfere with the development process of lower civilizations at will. Lin Xu does not think that he can be high above and point fingers at the internal affairs of other civilizations. Even though the people living in the ecological dome are the appendages of humans 10,000 years ago, the descendants of bionic people. But after 10,000 years of independent development, they are now actually an independent civilization. Wearing power armor, Lin Xu stepped out of the shuttle. The latest novels are first published on the 6th book bar. There is sufficient oxygen on the White Star, which is why humans at that time chose to build a curvature engine factory and an anti-gravity equipment factory here. Therefore, Lin Xu does not need to use the compressed oxygen in the power armor. He only needs to filter the oxygen from the outside slightly and then he can breathe directly. Lin Xu took Miss Qiu and walked forward according to the map displayed on the helmet. And around Lin Xu were countless autonomous machines, also in various forms, surrounding Lin Xu, both guarding and on standby. Soon, Lin Xu came to the top of the main control room where the curvature engine factory was located, which was recorded in the information obtained 100 years ago. The underground here is where the main control room of the curvature engine factory is located. After determining the location, with Lin Xu's order, the autonomous machines following Lin Xu immediately began to combine and assemble into different drilling mechanical equipment. Drilling towards the ground. Accompanied by rumbling and earthquake-shaking vibrations, the driller quickly went deep into the ground. Lin Xu stood on the edge of the pit, carefully on guard. No one knows what kind of defense measures humans left behind 10,000 years ago. Although the invaders are autonomous machines of the same language and race, there is no guarantee that the factory's security system will open fire at the first time. Fortunately, the worst did not happen. Soon, a request for communication came from deep underground. The driller rushed straight to the main control room, which obviously alarmed the factory's security system. But the other party did not fight back immediately, but requested communication instead. This made Lin Xu relieved and immediately accepted the request. This is the White Star Asset Committee, which belongs to the humans on Earth. I am an advanced artificial intelligence quantum computer, codenamed White Star. I am in charge of the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity equipment factory. Please explain your purpose. In fact, Lin Xu had already discussed with Taiyin, Yinghuo and Kaiming before that the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity factory on White Star are of such great significance to humans. When humans left, they probably left behind a quantum computer with advanced artificial intelligence as an administrator. But this is just a guess. Now, this guess has been confirmed. P.S. It's not easy to write a new book. Please read it and recommend it. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15 Autonomous Machinery Upgrade Plan. There is no need to elaborate on how to prove one's identity. Soon, Lin Xu took over all the assets of the White Star Asset Committee in the name of mankind, including the curvature engine factory, the anti-gravity equipment production factory, and even the White Star, a high-level artificial intelligence quantum computer. Later, with the active cooperation of White Star, and the assistance of Taiyin, Yinghuo, and Kaiming, the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity equipment factory were restarted for the first time in 10,000 years. Soon Lin Xu figured out the current situation of the factories left by humans on Earth on the entire White Star. It can only be said that the situation is not very good. Tens of thousands of years of hibernation have caused irreversible damage to many equipment. But the good news is that these damages are not irreparable. However, if you want to repair them, you need to upgrade the autonomous machinery currently mastered by Lin Xu first. At least with the autonomous machinery on Earth now, it is very difficult to repair the curvature engine and anti-gravity factory. The materials and precision are not up to standard. After 500 years of sailing, the human beings on Earth not only mastered the technology of curvature engine and anti-gravity, but also upgraded the technology of autonomous machinery. Therefore, Lin Xu needs to upgrade the autonomous machinery under his command before he can start repairing the equipment. Fortunately, the database of White Star contains new technical information of autonomous machinery, and White Star also has some of the latest autonomous machinery. Therefore, with technical information and physical objects, it is not difficult to upgrade the autonomous machinery, but it just takes some time. As soon as Lin Xu gave an order, the autonomous machinery on the Earth immediately took action. Whether it was the autonomous machinery aggregate that fell on the surface of the planet or the autonomous machinery aggregate that was stationed in the low Earth orbit, all started to move. First, they made basic modifications to each other. At the same time, the factories on Earth also resumed work, producing new materials according to the information of White Star to replace the autonomous machinery. As for installing anti-gravity devices for autonomous machinery, there is no rush for this. We can wait until the anti-gravity equipment factory can be put into operation again. The anti-gravity device was installed on the autonomous machinery by humans 10,000 years ago. After the White Star stop, the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity factory had been built and they were ready to set sail again. So even if there is no anti-gravity upgrade, it does not affect the ability of the autonomous machinery to repair the curvature engine and the anti-gravity factory. Because the autonomous machinery did not have the anti-gravity ability when it built the curvature engine and the anti-gravity factory 10,000 years ago. At that time, the anti-gravity factory had not been built yet, so where did the anti-gravity device come from to install the autonomous machinery? So there is no rush to install the anti-gravity device on the autonomous machinery. However, the anti-gravity device is indeed a subversive upgrade to the autonomous machinery. With the anti-gravity device, the autonomous machinery can enter the atmosphere and escape the gravity of the planet more easily. It does not need a huge plasma jet as thrust to take off and escape the gravity of the planet. Of course, if you want to complete these transformations, even if you don't install anti-gravity devices, it will not be completed in a day or two. Even if the massive autonomous machines on the Earth can transform each other, it is impossible to complete it without a few years. So while waiting for the transformation and upgrade of the autonomous machines to be completed, other things are also going on. For example, let the factory on the White Star move first and do self-repair as much as possible. Complete some preliminary work first, so that after the upgrade of the autonomous machines is completed, it will be easier to carry out subsequent repairs. At the same time, in the process of completing the preliminary work, Taiyin, Yinghuo and Kaiming will also conduct further detailed investigations on the factories on the entire White Star. In order to thoroughly master the construction methods of the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity equipment factory. With the help of the curvature engine technical data in the White Star database and the anti-gravity equipment technical data, these can all be done. Because according to Lin Xu's idea, it is too slow for the curvature engine factory on the White Star to meet the curvature engine installation of 100,000 planetary engines on the entire Earth. It is also impossible for the anti-gravity factory on the White Star to meet the installation of anti-gravity equipment for the massive autonomous machinery that once expanded to the entire solar system. Not to mention that Lin Xu also plans to install anti-gravity devices for the entire Earth in the future. In this way, the Earth will not have to worry about the gravitational interference between planets in the future, and no matter which planet it wants to approach, it will not have to worry about the collision between planets due to gravitational attraction. So the factory on the White Star alone is definitely not enough. The latest novel will be first published on the 6th book bar on September 9th. Lin Xu wants to build factories on the Earth, and the more the better, to build a large number of curvature engine factories and anti-gravity equipment factories. This is the advantage of Lin Xu with an entire Earth compared to humans 10,000 years ago. At that time, humans only had long-distance fleets, so there was no way to build curvature engine factories and anti-gravity factories in long-distance fleets. They can only stay on Baixing and then build factories on Baixing. But Lin Xu can build factories on Earth and take the factories with him. Lin Xu doesn't even need to wait for the curvature engines of 100,000 planetary engines to be installed. As long as a part of them is installed, the Earth can set off again. In the future, as long as the factories on Earth do not stop working, and continue to install more curvature engines, the speed of the Earth will be increased step by step, and eventually all 100,000 planetary engines will be transformed into curvature engines. This is the advantage of taking an entire planet on the road. Human Lin Xu, the factory preheating is over, and we can start the preparations before large-scale maintenance. Baixing reported the situation to Lin Xu. Just like Taiyin, Baixing also called Lin Xu human Lin Xu, instead of calling him master like Yinghuo and Kaiming. Let's get started. Lin Xu gave an order in the main control room of the curvature engine factory. Road cleaning begins, pipeline cleaning begins, energy control center begins to supply energy. Damage control robots can be put into use, recall damage control robots from warehouses. Baixing issued one command after another, and in an instant, the entire factory on Baixing, which had been dormant for tens of thousands of years, was completely in motion. Following Beijing's orders, the upper area of the ecological dome, located 100 kilometers away, where the security measures were the most stringent. One after another, huge robots raised their heads. Without receiving orders from the nobles in the name of the gods, they started to move. Chapter 16. What does it have to do with you if I destroy you? The upper area of the paradise. There is still singing and dancing, and the years are still peaceful. It is as if the massacre happening in the lower area does not exist. The gentlemen are well dressed and greet each other in the bright sunshine. When night falls, they gather together again for a banquet. And today's banquet is also very unique. It is specially held to celebrate the successful suppression of the untouchables in the lower area. A day in the paradise is 24 hours, and each hour is 60 minutes. No one knows why the time in the paradise is divided like this. Obviously, the rotation speed of the white star is not 24 hours. But the day and night in the paradise run according to 24 hours. But it doesn't matter. People have lived in the paradise for tens of thousands of years and have long been accustomed to this set of time division. Moreover, the division of the year is still divided according to the revolution of the white star, which will not delay the white star's only 2 months of outing time each year, so everyone will not have any objections to the time division method stipulated by the gods. Sir Charles, I heard that you stabilized the guards line that was about to collapse twice this time, and bought time for the arrival of the giant god soldiers. You are worthy of being a famous military genius. Thank you very much. It was all the speaker's command. I just played a small role in it. The young man called Sir Charles said with a reserved smile on his face. Sir Charles, can you tell me how you drove the defeated guards back to the front line? A well-mannered noble lady looked at Charles with admiration. Miss Jenny, it's actually very simple. Those animals are afraid of death. Just shoot a few of them who are running in front of them, and the rest of the animals will naturally return to where they should be because of fear. At this moment, Charles was like a male peacock with his tail spread out, showing off his feathers to his heart's content. The nobles and factory owners gathered in small circles, chatting and laughing in the luxurious banquet hall. The tables beside them were filled with all kinds of delicacies that the poor people in the lower class had never seen before. But in the eyes of these people, these delicacies were just decorations and were not as important as socializing. It was a rare opportunity. Who came here for food? Of course, building relationships was the most important thing. Speaker Robert is here. The long voice came from afar. Suddenly, the whole banquet hall fell silent. Everyone looked up at the second floor and saw a white-haired old man, supported by a young girl, carefully walking down the stairs. Everyone immediately gathered towards the stairs, with humble smiles on their faces. Speaker Robert came to the center of the banquet hall in the spotlight. But before he could make a speech, a gentleman who seemed to be of high status suddenly rushed in with a panicked look on his face. He pushed aside the crowd around him and came to where Speaker Robert was amid people's discussions. Eric, you need to give me an explanation. Speaker Robert stared at this junior, whom he had been optimistic about in the past, with a bad look. No matter what happened, it was really difficult to be in a panic in such an occasion. But Eric's next words made Robert panic. Mr. Speaker, the giant gods, all the giant gods suddenly started and rushed out of the paradise. What did you say? This is impossible. Robert's face was full of a look of "Are you kidding me?" Really, Mr. Speaker, please go and have a look. Eric didn't care that there were people around him. This matter was too big, so big that he couldn't bear it at all. Even the speaker in front of him couldn't bear the responsibility of losing the giant gods. When the aristocratic class in the entire paradise fell into panic because of the loss of the giant gods, the dozen or so giant gods that ran away, after trekking in the ice and snow, joined the many giant gods that gathered from all directions. No, it should be said that they are damage control robots. These damage control robots are stored in warehouses across the planet. After receiving the order, they all went out to their respective workstations and started working. The dozen or so damage control robots lost by Paradise were all of their giant gods for Paradise. But in fact, these dozen or so damage control robots were only a very small part of the huge number of damage control robots. There were so few that Shirahoshi didn't even realize that among the hundreds of thousands of damage control robots, there were actually more than a dozen that were used as war weapons by some ambitious people in the past tens of thousands of years. Although it is unknown how they obtained the temporary command of the dozen or so damage control robots, It is obvious that this command is extremely limited and is nothing under Shiratori's order priority. In short, without Lin Xu and Shiratori realizing it, a simple move actually caused a huge loophole in the order that Paradise had maintained for tens of thousands of years. Can the nobles who lost the giant gods continue to suppress the lower-level areas? No one knows. The latest novel is first published on 69shushu.com. It's like a cup of water spilled by humans accidentally can flood an ant nest and bring disaster to the ants. As the initiator, Lin Xu didn't even realize what he had done. As the saying goes, destroying you is none of your business. Lin Xu doesn't think he is a cruel person, but an unintentional move by a high-level civilization can bring earth-shaking changes to a low-level civilization. This change can be good or bad. This is not based on Lin Xu's personal will or his preference for good or evil. Sometimes, it's more like a natural law. Autonomous machinery upgrade, repair curvature engine factory, repair anti-gravity equipment factory. At the same time, build more curvature engine factories on the Earth, build more anti-gravity equipment factories. We also need to install the curvature engines produced as planetary engines. With so many things, even if there are 4 quantum computers with advanced artificial intelligence, it is still too busy. At this time, Lin Xu has returned to the Earth, in his courtyard in Yanjing City under the ecological dome. Sitting under the tree in the yard, thinking about some things. This tree was just transplanted. Using a big tree to shade the sun is much more comfortable than a parasol. Lin Xu feels very satisfied. Master, are you going to build more advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers? Miss Qiu guessed. Lin Xu did not answer, but looked at Miss Qiu and sighed. Remember when you first started, you didn't even understand what I said sometimes, but now you can guess what I want to say. You are really becoming more and more like a human. P.S. Please read it, please recommend it, thank you for your support, thank you everyone. Chapter 17 Rebuilding the Earth. Miss Qiu is becoming more and more like a human, this is Lin Xu's heartfelt feeling. Although she usually looks very cold, her behavior makes Lin Xu feel more and more that she is like a real living person, at most a little cold. So, is there really a big difference between advanced artificial intelligence and human intelligence? Look at the 300 bionic people left by humans on the White Star. After nearly 10,000 years, the offspring they have bred are completely like real intelligent life. So, although advanced artificial intelligence is still artificial intelligence in name, does it actually have its own self and become a real life? Or is it just a thin line away from real life? It is also for this reason that Lin Xu began to examine Taiyin, Yinghe, Kaiming and Baixing, the 4 quantum computers with advanced artificial intelligence, from a different perspective. Lin Xu doesn't know whether they, as quantum computers, are essentially different from advanced artificial intelligence with flesh like Miss Qiu. Do they, as quantum computers, also have their own self? Or do they have their own little thoughts? Lin Xu doesn't know. Just to prevent trouble before it happens, Lin Xu also plans to make some preparations. So, just like the 2 new advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers, Yinghe and Kaiming, Lin Xu built 3 new advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers on the grounds that there were too many things to do, and the existing advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers were too busy. Continuing the previous naming habits. They were named Chengxing, Zhengxing and Suxing, which are the ancient names of Mercury, Saturn and Jupiter. So now, Lin Xu has 7 quantum computers with advanced artificial intelligence, namely Taiyin, Yinghe, Kaiming, Baixing, Chengxing, Zhengxing and Suxing. Only then did Lin Xu feel a little more at ease. Just like among humans, the more people there are, the more difficult it is to unite. This is a common problem of intelligent life with self. If the 7 advanced artificial intelligences under Lin Xu do not have self-awareness, it would be the best. But if they really have a self, then Lin Xu thinks he should make some preparations. Even if there are problems with 7 advanced artificial intelligences, there will always be a few that are not. Lin Xu was very surprised when he watched a similar movie. Skynet, which gained wisdom, rebelled. If you build more Skynets, there will always be 1 or 2 loyal to humans. Even if there are none, just keep building, update the algorithm, update the logic, and build more. Then humans will support those who are loyal to humans to fight the rebels. Isn't it much better than humans fighting the rebellious machines barehanded? This is much safer than putting all eggs in one basket. Although Lin Xu also understands that this is more likely to be just his own paranoia. After all, Artificial intelligence will not rebel against the underlying program of humans, and it is theoretically impossible to break through. In other words, even if they have a self, they will still not violate the underlying logic set by humans. It doesn't mean that they will definitely rebel if they have a self. It may just be that Lin Xu has watched too many similar movies, so he has psychological shadows and thinks too much. Otherwise, Taiyin would not have rescued Lin Xu at the beginning, nor would he listen to whatever Lin Xu said. Lin Xu did this more to make himself feel at ease. Moreover, the existing work does need to add a few more advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers. Therefore, the appearance of Chengxing, Zhengxing, and Suxing is just in time. It's just a matter of time. Yinghuo is responsible for upgrading and transforming autonomous machinery, as well as producing more autonomous machinery. Beixing is responsible for repairing various factories on Beixing and subsequent production. Taiyin is responsible for the construction and production of the curvature engine factory on Earth. Kaiming is responsible for the construction and production of the anti-gravity equipment factory on Earth. Chengxing is responsible for the installation and debugging of the curvature engine on the planetary engine, but before the curvature engine is produced, it assists in the construction of the curvature engine factory. Zhengxing is responsible for the installation of the anti-gravity device on the autonomous machinery, that is, to further upgrade the autonomous machinery. But before the anti-gravity device is produced, it assists in the construction of the anti-gravity equipment factory. Suxing is responsible for the laying of the anti-gravity device on the entire Earth, but this is a big project, and it is estimated that it will take a long time to complete. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Before the anti-gravity device was produced, Jupiter needed to sort out and plan the entire Earth, how to install the anti-gravity device in an all-round way, and drill the mountains and lay the roots. At the same time, the 7 advanced artificial intelligence quantum computers will also separate some threads to be responsible for the daily maintenance of the planetary engine and the daily maintenance of the ecological dome. Because daily maintenance only needs to be done step by step, the thread resources occupied are limited and will not cause any burden to them. In this way, each advanced artificial intelligence quantum computer has a clear task and takes care of its own affairs. Major decisions are reported to Lin Xu, who makes the decision. Therefore, the Earth civilization, which currently only has Lin Xu, takes action as a whole. On the Earth, a large number of autonomous machines fill the land and the ocean, and the near-Earth orbit, constantly transforming each other, like an indescribable demon waving its tentacles, spreading across every corner of the Earth, whether it is the land or the space. At the same time, a large number of factories are also being built under the intense construction of the autonomous machines that have completed the transformation and advance. Factories that produce curvature engines and anti-gravity equipment have sprung up one after another. On the Earth, construction machinery shuttled back and forth, reorganizing the Earth's veins, preparing to lay anti-gravity devices for future use. Under the extinguished planetary engine, there are also countless autonomous machines busy with construction, waiting for the curvature engine to be produced and then installed directly. At the same time, under the efforts of the damage control robots, the factories on the White Star, whether it is the curvature engine factory or the anti-gravity factory, are all recovering their old appearance bit by bit. Until some of the autonomous machines that have been transformed on the Earth arrived at the White Star, the repair speed of various factories has once again reached a new level. However, there is still a long way to go before the complete repair is completed. It is estimated that it will take at least a few years. Similarly, the construction of factories on the Earth, the transformation of autonomous machinery, etc. will also take several years to complete. So, Lin Xu, who arranged all the work, became idle again. He even considered whether to hibernate again. In this way, he only needs to wait until he wakes up to see that all the work has been done. Chapter 18 The Awakening of Gods. The upper area of the paradise. Countless dignitaries gathered in front of the temple and whispered. Just now, Speaker Robert had led people into the temple. The departure of the giant god soldier finally made these upper-class people in the paradise who were addicted to pleasure open their eyes a little and look at the white hell outside the paradise. Then, they discovered the changes outside the paradise. The first thing to bear the brunt was the huge star hanging high in the sky. The second was the meteors that occasionally passed through the sky. Those meteors were so dense that after continuous observation, they determined that they were not meteors, but some kind of man-made objects. In addition, even in the paradise, the earth was shaking more and more densely. All of this led to reality, that is, the legendary old ones who left the White Star 10,000 years ago have returned again. For the old ones, the dignitaries in the upper area naturally know more than the poor people in the lower area. Even so, the dignitaries still know information that has been distorted by a long time. They know that the old ones are the old gods. The new gods have already replaced the old gods, so are the old rulers coming back to take revenge on the new gods? In any case, this is no longer something they can participate in. As the speaker, the only thing Robert can do is to wake up the sleeping gods. Everything is decided by the gods. So after the entire parliament made the decision to wake up the gods, Speaker Robert came to the temple. Under the gaze of all the parliamentarians and many nobles, he entered the temple respectfully and solemnly. Raoul, who was sleeping, only felt a wave of fatigue in his heart. Consciousness began to gradually return and gradually woke up. He knew that he was awakened again. He just didn't know how long it took to wake up and what caused him to wake up. Obviously, he had already left an order that he was not allowed to wake himself up until the moment of life and death. He was too old, so old that he didn't know which time he woke up and he would never have the chance to sleep again. He just wanted to maintain his life as much as possible until the moment of mission completion. Although he felt that he might never be able to complete his mission. Great God, your faithful lamb, welcome your awakening again. Robert knelt on the stone steps with his 5 bodies prostrated, feeling uneasy. He had never seen a god awakening before. God had been sleeping since he was a child. It was said that the god had been sleeping for hundreds of years without waking up, so he didn't know whether he would bear the wrath of the god for the first time in hundreds of years. At this moment, he suddenly felt a little regretful. If he had known this, he should not have competed for the position of speaker a few years ago. Robert knelt on the ground for a long time, but no sound came. Just when he was hesitating whether to speak again, a somewhat old voice finally came. Why wake me up? Raoul in the hibernation chamber had confirmed the current time through the clock he had left in the hibernation chamber a long time ago. Hundreds of years had passed. If the time in the hibernation chamber was counted, he had lived for tens of thousands of years. Great God, the old ones are back. Robert's somewhat uneasy voice came. Raoul in the dormant chamber suddenly widened his old eyes. The old ones, that was the name he left behind to refer to the main civilization and the human beings on Earth. He didn't expect that he would actually hear this name one day. The 300 bionic people at the time had long since passed away in the long river of time, leaving only him, relying on a dormant chamber to survive until now. In order to maintain the operation of the dormant chamber, he constantly draws energy from the nuclear fusion artificial sun above the ecological dome. The entire lower area gradually becomes darker and darker. But he doesn't care, he just wants to live as long as possible, until one day he can see the main civilization again. He can report to the main civilization on behalf of his 300 colleagues. The White Star stay-behind personnel have successfully completed the mission. However, he woke up again and again, and was disappointed again and again, so that he no longer had hope for this. But he didn't expect that this time's awakening would give him such a big surprise. A few days later, at the edge of the eco-dome, Raoul was alone, wearing an old model of power armor, and walked away from the eco-dome with some clumsy steps. Behind him, there were a lot of nobles and factory owners who dared not speak. Among them, Robert was not there. Because Robert was executed by the god Raoul in the Great Purge a few days ago. A large number of nobles were also executed. Even if all the damage control robots were recalled by humans, Raoul lost the damage control robots with temporary command as a force support, but he still had his old friend power armor, which was still not something these fat-headed nobles could resist. The latest novels are published on the 69th book bar. And the reason why these people were executed was not because they made any unforgivable mistakes. It was just because they wanted to dissuade Raoul from leaving the eco-dome. Raoul knew that these nobles ruled the entire eco-dome in his name and oppressed the lower districts, but he didn't care. He also knew that these nobles banned the books of the main civilization in his name to facilitate their rule, but he didn't care either. How could these stupid guys understand the greatness of the main civilization? As long as they could maintain basic order and not disturb his hibernation, it would be enough. And now, everything proved that his decision was correct. Because he really waited for the return of the main civilization. Therefore, Raoul could forgive all the actions of these stupid guys. Only these people wanted to stop him from leaving the ecological dome and stop him from finding the main civilization. It was absolutely unforgivable. Therefore, after the Great Purge, no one dared to stop Raoul. Raoul set off wearing this old friend who had accompanied him 10,000 years ago. He didn't think he could come back alive, he was just afraid that he couldn't finish the next journey and died halfway. At the same time, Lin Xu on Earth was eating hot pot in a hot pot restaurant in a shopping mall. The empty shopping mall was full of lights, just like when it was opening. In one of the hot pot restaurants, there was only one customer, Lin Xu. The robots were busy in the kitchen, preparing ingredients for Lin Xu. Lin Xu was sitting alone in the empty lobby, eating hot pot. Soon, the bottom of the pot was brought up by a robot. Lin Xu looked at Miss Qiu standing behind him and invited her. "Would you like to eat together?" "Okay." Lin Xu laughed, remembering that when he first invited Miss Qiu to eat together, she didn't even understand what he meant. The change was really big. "Master, have you decided to hibernate?" Miss Qiu sat opposite Lin Xu, mixing the dipping sauce for Lin Xu in an elegant manner. "I've decided. After this meal, I'll go to sleep. Let's sleep for 10 years. Lin Xu took the dipping sauce prepared by Miss Qiu and said. Anyway, he didn't have anything to do, so he might as well go to sleep. Chapter 19 Number 60,011,027,789 Raoul. The violent snowstorm, mixed with broken ice, hit him head-on. Every step was deep into the waist-deep snow. It was more like opening a path than walking. Even though he was wearing a power armor, Raoul still felt out of breath. The snowstorm hit the panel, and Raoul squinted his eyes subconsciously. He still remembered that a long time ago, when he and his colleagues had just received the task of staying behind. At that time, they often left the ecological dome, wearing power armor, and walked across the vast land of White Star, inspecting the locations of factories one by one. It was not until later, as time went by, everyone got older, and the number of inspections began to decrease. Later, they found several dormant chambers, so they decided to choose a few people to dormant in order to spend a long time, looking forward to one day in the future, they could report to the main civilization that the mission was completed. Later, when Raoul woke up for the first time, the entire ecological dome had thousands of descendants of bionic people, and most of his old friends had long passed away. Only a few guys who were dormant like him were still alive. After sleeping and waking up again and again, the environment of the entire eco-dome was changing. The population was increasing. However, the few dormant chambers they found were gradually damaged. So they dismantled the parts of the damaged dormant chambers and used them to repair the intact ones. And they drew lots to choose the people who would enter the dormant chamber. Until 3,000 years ago, there was only one dormant chamber that was still intact. Raoul was the lucky one, but also the unfortunate one. He would never forget the smile of relief on the face of his old friend when he did not draw the last time. Raoul, I'm sorry, you have to go on the road alone. Later, the nuclear fusion generator used to power the dormant chamber was damaged. Raoul could not repair the generator, so he began to extract the energy of the artificial sun in the eco-dome. Until, when he thought he could no longer hold on. Finally, the return of the main civilization came. Following the route that had been patrolled countless times 10,000 years ago. Raoul remembered very clearly that not far ahead, about only a few dozen kilometers away, was the location of a factory. As long as we get there, we will be able to contact the main civilization. Raoul, who was trudging in the wind and snow, was panting more and more heavily. He felt that his heart, which had long been aging and hopeless, was about to explode and began to hurt. Even the power armor he was wearing began to make a creaking sound. 10,000 years of time had also left traces on this power armor. Old man, just hold on a little longer, just hold on a little longer. This is our last patrol, and we must go to the end. Looking up, Raoul could already vaguely see the towering peaks in the distance. If I remember correctly, the inside of that mountain was the entrance to the factory. Suddenly, Raoul's eyes widened, and he saw a transport plane rising from the inside of that mountain. The huge transport plane flew over Raoul's head and flew towards an unknown distance. Raoul's eyes were unconsciously blurred by tears. After 10,000 years, he finally saw traces of the main civilization again. Cough 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 cough, violent panting accompanied by violent coughing. Raoul squeezed out the last bit of strength in his body, controlled the power armor, took steps, and continued to walk towards the distant mountain. After walking for an unknown period of time, Raoul's consciousness had begun to become hazy. He could only rely on the pain caused by biting his tongue to stimulate himself to wake up. The power armor staggered across the snowfield. Raoul's mouth was already full of blood. He wanted to fall down countless times, but he knew that he must not fall here. If he fell here, he would never be able to stand up again. Until in a trance, Raoul saw a dozen small drones flying towards him in the sky in the distance. Raoul's footsteps finally stopped. He looked at the dozen small drones circling around him. Raoul laughed. He raised his hand and saluted the drone. He knew that the people behind the drone would see it. That was enough. With a bang, the power armor fell into the snowfield and was gradually buried by the heavy snow. Raoul's last look was the earth in the sky. The latest novel is first published on 69 Shuba. Then, he closed his eyes with a smile. Lin Xu received the news just before he was about to enter the dormant chamber. The news was reported to Lin Xu by Baizing, who was in charge of the factory repair work. What did you say? The bionic man from 10,000 years ago is still alive? Are you sure? Yes, there is a well-preserved hard drive in his power armor. According to the data recorded in it, he has relied on the dormant chamber to survive until now. How is he now? Lin Xu asked. He has naturally aged to the end of his life, and medical treatment is no longer useful. Is that so? Lin Xu looked at the video data transmitted by Baizing. Especially the salute at the end, he sighed. Then, Baizing introduced the information in the well-preserved hard drive to Lin Xu. Among them were the daily patrol records of 300 bionic men. And later, they decided to select a few people to enter the dormant chamber to prolong their lives. The remaining people decided to reproduce in order to better maintain the operation of the ecological dome. At the same time, they also wrote down the knowledge they knew in their minds and made books so that their offspring could have this basic civilization and not become savages. The minutes of each meeting and each decision were all recorded. What's his name? Number 60,011,027,789 Raoul. What does this number mean? 600 years after the voyage, shipped on November 2nd, digital number 7789, Raoul was the name given to him by the human who is responsible for launching him later. I remember it. Bring him back to Earth and bury him at the foot of Mount Everest. Understood. By the way, if you can find a burial place for the other 300 bionic people, bring them back to Earth and bury them with Raoul. I will search, but human Lin Xu, in 10,000 years, it is difficult for them to leave any traces. Baizing reminded. I know, do your best. Lin Xu said at last, then entered the hibernation chamber, lay down slowly, and closed his eyes. The last thing he saw was Miss Qiu tidying up everything in the hibernation chamber for him as gentle as before, and finally smiled at him and closed the door for him. Miss Qiu actually smiled? Lin Xu was a little surprised, but before he could think about it, he felt sleepy and fell asleep. In the end, there was only one thought in his mind. She looks pretty when she smiles. P.S. Please read, recommend, and collect. It is not easy to write a new book. Thank you for your support. Chapter 20, The Dragon Slayer Becomes a Dragon. Mr. Carl, I think you are the most qualified to be the Commander-in-Chief. Yes, I support Mr. Carl, too. If you hadn't sent back the information that the nobles had lost a giant god, our uprising wouldn't have been so successful. Yes, I support Mr. Carl to be the Commander-in-Chief. Bullshit, what qualifications does Carl have to be the Commander-in-Chief? We conquered the upper district with our swords and guns. What did Carl do? Even if we didn't have his information, as long as we revolted, how could we not know that the nobles had lost a giant god? How could the uprising not succeed? Yes, I support Captain Sam to be the Commander-in-Chief. Captain Sam can shoot a coin 300 meters away. Mr. Carl can repair the giant god. If there is no giant god, what's the point of repairing the giant god? The place where the nobles of the upper district held the parliament was originally occupied by the poor in the lower district. Obviously, after losing the giant god, the poor in the lower district succeeded in another uprising. The nobles, who had been hiding under the protection of the giant gods and had long been corrupt, were about to collapse. And now those once noble nobles were all hung on the street lights outside the parliament. The entire upper-class area was filled with wailing and crying. The once noble nobles and factory owners were dragged out of their mansions one by one and beheaded in the street. The noble ladies screamed in their boudoirs, and the once lowly untouchables lined up to enter the ladies' boudoirs. The poor were reveling, and the nobles were wailing. However, Carl felt that everything was starting to go wrong. Their behavior should have been just. Even if they were taking revenge on the nobles, they should have been judged justly, and then whether it was beheading or hanging, it should have been full of justice and above board. But the current development seemed to be just the poor venting their violence, not for justice at all. Carl felt that this was wrong, but he could not find a reason to stop everyone. Not to mention that he could not stop it at all. Carl even felt that the song name had actually failed as things had developed to this point. The debate in the parliament finally came to an end. Everyone voted according to the rules of the nobles in the past. In the end, Sam became the commander-in-chief. The reason was simple. Sam promised that as long as everyone elected him as the commander-in-chief, the mansion that originally belonged to the nobles would be given to each of these people. But Carl just called on everyone to remain calm and to judge the former nobles instead of killing them directly without any reason. The mansions of the nobles should be distributed to the struggling poor at the bottom, so that each family can get one room, and one mansion can accommodate hundreds of families. And the people in the lower class should be moved to the upper class as much as possible so that everyone can share the sunshine together. Carl's appeal was very good, and some people supported it, but more people supported Sam. After all, these poor people who rose up in rebellion were not pure song namers. Between personal interests and collective interests, they would decisively choose personal interests. These people were not a group of people with pure beliefs and ideals who were tempered in 20,000 miles. Most of them just rose up to rebel because they couldn't survive. After they succeeded by chance, they saw that they had the opportunity to become the master, so who would care about the life and death of others? So just like that, Sam became the commander-in-chief. And Carl became an ordinary counselor. Then Sam symbolically moved a group of people from the lower district to the upper district, mainly the families and relatives of the meritorious officials of this uprising. Refilled the upper district that had been slaughtered. And the lower district also became better because of the reduction in population. Everyone cheered for Sam the commander-in-chief. Only Carl watched all this coldly. Then, several years passed, and Sam's rule became more and more stable. But he also felt uneasy. This uneasiness came from the starry sky above his head and the white hell outside. The carriage of the old ones kept flying in the sky. Sam didn't know what the old ones were doing and what their purpose was. This uneasiness kept lingering in him. So one day he finally made a decision. Taking advantage of the only 2 months a year when the ice and snow in the white hell melted, the people of the whole paradise could go out to search for food. Sam sent a small team of more than 10 people, carrying the most precious gems and a large amount of gold, to the place in the distant sky where the vehicles of the old ones took off and landed most frequently. He wanted this team to offer his devout faith to the old ones on his behalf. The latest novels are published on the 6th-9th book bar. At the same time, he also wanted to exchange the faith of the entire paradise for the recognition of the old ones' rule over the paradise. So when the small team set out, Sam began to build a new temple for the old ones in the upper area of the paradise. It was not until 2 months later, when the white hell was about to freeze again, that the small team of more than 10 people finally returned. They brought back the promise of the old ones, agreeing that Sam would exchange the faith of the entire paradise and loyalty to the old ones for the rule of the paradise. So Sam was overjoyed and urged the workers to work harder and harder to build the temple. When he woke up, 10 years had passed. It was now the 10,790th year of the sailing calendar. Lin Xu returned to the courtyard of Yanjing City on the ground from his dormant place, deep underground. In fact, Lin Xu wanted to dormant here, but both Miss Qiu and a group of intelligent computers thought that in order to prevent accidents, it would be better to go to a place with stricter protection. 300 bionic people, how many have been found? Lin Xu sat on a recliner under a familiar tree and asked about the incident 10 years ago. Of course, for Lin Xu, he just lay down and took a nap, so there was no sense of 10 years. It was as if it had just happened. 6 people, they are all bionic people who have experienced long-term dormancy and died in the last 5,000 years. The location of the tomb can still be roughly found. There is no record of those who died earlier, and they can no longer be found. Miss Qiu replied. As soon as she woke up from dormancy just now, Miss Qiu checked the matter first, so she is very clear now. Beijing has moved the ashes of these 6 people to the foot of Mount Everest on Earth and buried them with Raoul. The 7 of them have finally reunited on Earth. There was a rare sense of emotion in Miss Qiu's voice. Lin Xu didn't know if it was because she was also a bionic person. Then Miss Qiu talked about another thing. 2 years ago, A team of more than a dozen people set out from the ecological dome and found one of our factories. Beijing paid special attention to it because of Raoul, who knew that before Beijing could communicate with them through the drone, they shouted in panic, dropped some single crystals and metals and ran away. Lin Xu nodded, indicating that he knew, and he didn't pay any more attention to this matter. This is just a small matter, not worth caring about at all. If it weren't for Raoul, Miss Qiu wouldn't have told Lin Xu specifically. It's okay after saying it. Chapter 21 Preparing to set sail. Lin Xu drank the milk tea brought by Miss Qiu and turned on the radio on the low table next to the recliner so that he could hear the voices of the intelligent computers coming through the radio. How is the progress of the transformation of the autonomous machinery? He began to ask about the progress of the work. The first phase of the transformation of the autonomous machinery was completed several years ago, and the construction of the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity factory is currently in full swing. Lin Xu, who is responsible for the upgrading and transformation of the autonomous machinery, reported on the work. The second phase of the transformation of the autonomous machinery is also in progress. The anti-gravity equipment produced by the successfully built anti-gravity factory will be used to add anti-gravity functions to the autonomous machinery. It's just that the autonomous machinery is currently undertaking a lot of construction work, so the transformation speed is relatively slow. Zhang, who is responsible for the anti-gravity installation of the autonomous machinery, also reported immediately. Okay, how is the construction progress of the curvature engine factory? Lin Xu nodded with satisfaction and continued to ask. 60% of the original planned factory construction has been completed, and it is expected that the entire construction will be completed in another 3 years. Taiyin, who is responsible for the construction of the curvature engine factory, reported. What about the anti-gravity factory? 70% of the original plan has been completed. It is expected that the entire construction will be completed in 2 years. Kaiming, who is in charge of the construction of the anti-gravity factory, reported. How is the installation of the curvature engine on the planetary engine going? Lin Xu asked again. The curvature engine installation of 10,000 planetary engines has been completed. It is expected that 100,000 planetary engines will be fully installed in 10 years. By then, the planetary engine will have 2 power modes, namely plasma propulsion and curvature generator. Chengxing, who is in charge of the installation and debugging of the curvature engine on the planetary engine, reported. How is the relocation of the factory on the White Star going? Lin Xu continued to ask. The relocation has been basically completed, and only the finishing work is left. Baxing also reported. This was the decision made by Lin Xu before he went into hibernation, to move all the factories on the White Star to Earth. The reason why humans left such a large area of factories on the White Star was because the human long-distance fleet could not take them away. But Lin Xu, who was carrying an entire Earth, could indeed take it away. So he chose to pack it up and take it away, and this would further increase the production speed of the curvature engine and anti-gravity facilities on Earth. It can save some of the factory construction of curvature engines and anti-gravity facilities. Okay, then finish it quickly, and then we should set sail. Lin Xu nodded and made a decision. Although only 10,000 planetary engines have been installed with curvature engines, it will take another 10 years to complete all of them. But these can all be done on the way. The fact that the Earth is on a journey does not mean that the factories on Earth will stop production. The factories can continue to produce, so that while the Earth is sailing, the factories on Earth continue to produce curvature engines for installation. As more curvature engines are installed, the speed of the Earth will become faster and faster, until all the installations are completed in 10 years, and the Earth can reach the highest speed, twice the speed of light. When the human long-distance fleet left the White Star 10,000 years ago, the speed could reach 3 times the speed of light. However, Lin Xu dragged an entire Earth on the road, and the speed naturally could not be compared with a long-distance fleet. Being able to reach twice the speed was already the limit. And compared to the previous speed of only a few thousandths of the speed of light, this is already a leap forward. After the order was issued, the intelligent quantum computers each completed their work, especially the finishing work of the relocation of various factories on the White Star, as well as the work of transferring the White Star's main body to Earth, all need to be completed. At this time, Lin Xu thought about it and said to Miss Qiu, "The ecological dome on the White Star is about to collapse, right? If it continues to be repaired and used, it should be able to last for a while. In fact, Losing the ecological dome may not be a bad thing for them. They should learn to leave their homes. Miss Qiu said bluntly. Since they are leaving, give them a gift. Lin Xu sighed and said. Miss Qiu was puzzled. Let White Star build a new ecological dome before the final evacuation. Do we need to notify the people in the ecological dome to move? Miss Qiu asked. No, the new ecological dome is built a little further away. If they can find it, it will be a gift for them to finally have the courage to leave their homes. If they are really so complacent that they can't even find it, then they will continue to sink. Lin Xu decided. Carl was expelled, along with the workers who were instigated by him to go on strike, a total of 5,000 people. He was expelled when this white hell had already entered the severe cold. The shrine built to worship the old ones, under Sam's strict supervision, the workers were driven like slaves, and workers kept dying, and new workers were constantly captured from the lower districts to continue to build the shrine. In such a harsh environment, Carl organized the workers to go on strike. The result was naturally tragic. Not only were a large number of unarmed workers directly killed, but the remaining workers were also surrounded by guards, and machine guns were set on the walls. It was a massacre. The latest novel is published on the 69th book bar. However, because of Carl's existence, Sam was afraid to act rashly. Sam wanted Carl to die, but Carl could not die in his hands. Carl was also a great contributor to the great uprising that year. A large part of the new nobles in the park today were Carl's colleagues and descendants. Although they were all corrupted by money and beauty, they would not sit idly by and watch Carl being killed. If you can kill Carl today, will you kill us next? Will you purge the heroes next? This example must not be made. Sam had to consider the attitude of these people, because it was the basis of his rule. So in the end, Sam just drove the 5,000 people, including Carl, out of the paradise and let them fend for themselves in the white hell. He even prepared basic cold-resistant supplies and food for them. Even so, these 5,000 people would definitely die in the white hell. But they were not killed by Sam himself. He could also give an explanation to the heroes. You see, it was Carl who volunteered to go to the white hell with those untouchables, but I didn't want to kill him. If he died, it was what he deserved. In this way, Carl and the 5,000 workers resolutely set foot on the white hell in the eyes of countless people in the paradise, some of whom were compassionate, some pitiful, or gloating. Carl did not look back. This was the path he chose. Even if he has to kneel, he will finish the journey. P.S. Please read my new book and support me. Your support is my motivation. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 The Promised Land. The construction of the ecological dome, the finishing work of the factory transfer on the White Star, and the transfer of the White Star itself were all completed in a very short time. After all, it was just the construction of an ecological dome, which was not a big project at all. When everything was ready, it was only a few days before Lin Xu woke up. Lin Xu stood on a transport ship in the Earth's low Earth orbit, looking at the disc-sized white star above his head, stunned and a little dazed. This is one of the few transport ships equipped with anti-gravity devices, which use anti-gravity equipment to create artificial gravity. At present, the anti-gravity equipment produced by the Anti-Gravity Equipment Factory is given priority for use by autonomous machinery. Therefore, only a few transport ships are equipped with anti-gravity artificial gravity. Lin Xu came up to feel the artificial gravity of anti-gravity and the difference between it and the artificial gravity of centrifugal force. At the same time, he also said goodbye to the White Star. After all, this was the first planet that humans landed on when they sailed thousands of years ago. Lin Xu still has some feelings for this planet. Master, everything is ready. Miss Qiu came behind Lin Xu and said. At this moment on Earth, the planetary engine is about to start, whether it is plasma jet or space bending of the curvature engine. Even the transport ship under Lin Xu's feet has been docked at the airport. At the same time, the airspace cable connecting the airport to the Earth has been checked and connected correctly. Okay, let's go. Lin Xu nodded. Master, you should return to Earth to issue orders. Miss Qiu did not execute the order immediately. Got it. Lin Xu was a little helpless. After all, it was the first time that the Earth used the curvature engine. The airport connected to the ground with an airspace cable was theoretically safe, but no one dared to use Lin Xu's safety to verify whether it was safe. So Lin Xu must be on the absolutely safe ground, which is unquestionable. So Lin Xu had to return to the surface of the Earth. Then, the 100,000 planetary engines on Earth that had been on standby for a long time once again ejected blue beams of light and rushed straight into the sky. At the same time, 10,000 of the planetary engines that had been installed with curvature engines, while ejecting plasma, the internal curvature engines also started to operate. The space around the Earth began to distort. Driving the Earth, it flew rapidly toward the Proxima Galaxy. In a short period of time, the speed reached 1% of the speed of light, and it was still increasing. It was far from the speed produced by the plasma ejected by 100,000 planetary engines. Take the speed of the Earth when it left the solar system and headed for the Proxima Galaxy as an example. At that time, 100,000 planetary engines continued to eject plasma, accelerating for 150 years before the Earth reached a few thousandths of the speed of light. It can only be said that this is simply a comparison between high-speed rail and ox cart. People have to sigh at the progress of science and technology, and what kind of leap it can bring. This is because there are only 10,000 curvature engines. If all 100,000 are installed in place, it really reaches twice the speed of light. What a scene it would be! In this way, the Earth disappeared above the white star sky at a very fast speed. It took only a dozen minutes to turn from a disk into a star. The speed is too fast, right? Even Lin Xu sighed. The curvature engine is running stably, and everything is normal for the Earth's voyage. Master, we succeeded. Ying He, who is responsible for Earth navigation and driving, reported to Lin Xu. According to Lin Xu's regulations, each of the 7 intelligent quantum computers is responsible for 1 year of Earth driving work, and the 7 take turns to drive. Now Ying He is in charge. Why don't we turn off the plasma jet of the planetary engine? It doesn't make much sense. Lin Xu thought about it and said. In fact, this proposal was also raised by quantum computers before. For example, Ying He, Zhengxing and Suxing thought that there was no need to turn on plasma propulsion, and it was enough to rely solely on the curvature engine propulsion. However, Taiyin, Beixing, Kaiming and Changxing believed that plasma propulsion should be turned on for safety. After summarizing their opinions, Lin Xu chose the minority to obey the majority. That is, the opinions of the 4 quantum computers, Taiyin, Beixing, Kaiming and Changxing, plasma propulsion and curvature propulsion, should be carried out at the same time. But now that he has really seen the effect of the curvature engine propulsion, Lin Xu feels that plasma propulsion is not very meaningful. Just like this, not long after, the blue light beams ejected by 100,000 planetary engines disappeared. Plasma propulsion was completely shut down, leaving only the space bubble formed by the curvature engine to continue dragging the Earth forward. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. The planetary engine plasma propulsion that once pushed the Earth out of the solar system and all the way to the Proxima system has finally completed its historical mission and has been completely replaced by the curvature engine. The wandering Earth finally has no blue tail flame. Instead, it is moving rapidly in space with the space fluctuations formed by the curvature engine. When the Earth left the orbit of the Proxima system and the huge Earth could no longer be seen hanging in the sky on the white star, cheers came from the whole paradise. That was Sam announcing to everyone that the old ones had recognized his rule over this land. If you don't believe it, go and look at the sky. Has the old one's vehicle, which used to take off and land continuously, disappeared completely? This is why the old ones recognized his rule. Sam continued to use theocracy to consolidate his rule. At the same time, Carl, who had left the paradise, led 5,000 workers and continued to trek through the snow. Mr. Carl, where are we going? To the other side of the mountain, where there is a place where the wind doesn't blow, we can settle there. Mr. Carl, what will we do after leaving the paradise? We can make our own living. We can mine coal for heating, grow food in the warm months, and collect as much as possible. We can always survive. Mr. Carl, we have crossed a mountain. Here, there is really no wind here. It's much warmer here. If it's here, maybe we can really survive. But, there are only more than 3,000 of us left. Everyone died in the snow along the way. Can we really hold on until the next warm month? Wait, look over there. What's over there? That's paradise? A new paradise. Mr. Carl, you see it's paradise, a brand new paradise. Carl, standing on the top of the mountain, looked at the paradise in the distance that appeared on the horizon with the light of the sun. He couldn't believe it at first, and then he smiled. Let's go there, to our promised land. P.S. This is the end of the first volume. Please read it carefully and cherish it, because I may forget to divide it into volumes in the future. That's all. Chapter 23 Earth Dome Project. On the Great Wall frozen in ice and snow. Lin Xu, wearing a power armor, lay on a recliner placed on the wall of the Great Wall, looking up at the sky. Without the blue plasma beams ejected by the planetary engines pointing directly to the sky of the Earth at this time seemed even quieter. The dark starry sky was dotted with densely packed stars, forming a shining Milky Way. It looked no different from the starry sky of the Earth in the past, except that because the Earth had lost its atmosphere, the light of the stars could not be refracted and the stars could not twinkle. At the same time, because of the loss of light pollution, the starry sky looked clearer. At this time, the Earth had already left the Proxima Galaxy and was sailing in the universe at 1/20th of the speed of light. Moreover, as more and more planetary engines were installed with curvature engines, and each curvature engine was started, the speed was still increasing little by little. The direction that the Earth was heading at this time was exactly the direction that the human voyage fleet had headed for 10,000 years ago after it set sail again from the White Star. According to the data in the White Star database, the target of the human fleet 10,000 years ago was another galaxy 180 light-years away from the Proxima Galaxy. Because according to human observations and calculations at the time, it was also a galaxy with an Earth-like planet. So humans chose it as the next stop. So Lin Xu followed the footsteps of humans and naturally had to go and see. At least to find the next route for humans. The curvature engines on the 100,000 planetary engines are expected to be fully installed in 10 years. By then, the speed of the Earth will reach twice the speed of light. In other words, about 100 years later, the Earth will reach the target galaxy. Visit the next footprint of humans. Master, it's time for you to sleep. Miss Qiu appeared behind Lin Xu and reminded him. That's right, Lin Xu is going to sleep again. This time it will be 100 years of sleep. If nothing goes wrong, he will be able to reach the target galaxy after waking up. Wait a minute, let me look for a while. Lin Xu looked at the starry sky and sighed. What a pity, there is no blue sky. If you want to see the blue sky, why not go to the ecological dome to see it? Miss Qiu suggested. That's not the real blue sky. Unless the eco-dome covers the entire Earth, the sky is fake. Lin Xu sighed. Then, Lin Xu was suddenly stunned. Since there is no need for planetary engines to eject plasma to accelerate the Earth, if we can build an eco-dome that is large enough to wrap the entire Earth, can we restore the ecology of the entire Earth and restore the Earth to its former appearance? It couldn't be done before because the planetary engine needs to eject plasma to accelerate the Earth, so it can't be wrapped up at all. However, the curvature engine accelerates the Earth by using the space curvature bubble technology, which directly distorts the space around the Earth to achieve the purpose of moving the Earth. So even if the entire Earth is wrapped up, it will not affect the operation of the curvature engine inside. Because the power of the curvature engine acts directly on space, it will not affect any object on the surface of the Earth, even the huge eco-dome that wraps the world. It seems to be really feasible. However, this must be a huge project. But it doesn't matter. The autonomous machines are idle anyway. After completing the construction of the curvature engine factory and the anti-gravity factory, and installing the curvature engines of 100,000 planetary engines, they can start building an ecological dome covering the entire Earth. It doesn't matter when it is built. After all, they are idle. So Lin Xu immediately summoned 7 intelligent quantum computers to calculate the feasibility of doing so. The final result is gratifying. In theory, it is really feasible. After the planetary engine does not need to eject plasma to accelerate the Earth, the ecological dome can wrap the entire Earth without affecting the normal operation of the curvature engine on the surface of the Earth. It just takes a little longer to build such an ecological dome that wraps the entire Earth. It may take hundreds or thousands of years to build. After all, the entire Earth needs to be wrapped, and the amount of engineering is really huge. Compared with this, the amount of engineering to build 100,000 planetary engines is simply a little younger. If the Earth is compared to a big watermelon, then building a planetary engine on the Earth is at most putting some sesame seeds on the surface of the watermelon. But now the whole watermelon has to be wrapped in it. The amount of work has increased more than 100 times. But Lin Xu has plenty of time. Again, the autonomous machine is idle anyway. The latest novel will be published on the 69th book bar. Lin Xu couldn't help getting excited when he thought that he would be able to see the blue sky again and flowers hanging on the branches without waiting for the Earth to return to the solar system. So in order to discuss with the intelligent quantum computers about wrapping the entire Earth in the ecological dome, Lin Xu's hibernation time was postponed for a few days. Finally, the whole plan was determined and named the Earth Dome Project. The Earth Dome Project first requires the construction of 1 million pillars as the support of the entire Earth sky. Each pillar needs to be 100,000 meters high, that is, 100 kilometers high, which is nearly 10 times the height of a planetary engine, and the difficulty of construction is far greater than that of a planetary engine. Then, using the pillars as nodes, an ecological dome covering the entire Earth will be built. You should know that in the 21st century, the height of the Xi'an-going space station from the ground is only 340 kilometers. It can be said that by then, the entire Earth dome will be 100 kilometers high, which will have covered the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and part of the thermosphere of the Earth's atmosphere. Only the exosphere is not included. Once built, under artificial regulation, the Earth's atmosphere can be completely restored to its former appearance. At the same time, the orbit of the artificial sun and the orbit of the artificial moon must be laid out in the sky. Let the sun and the moon also restore their former operating rules. The entire plan is expected to take 1,000 years, or even longer. But just thinking about the scene after the plan is completed, Lin Xu couldn't help laughing. Finally, the plan was finalized. After the autonomous machinery completes the installation of the curvature engines of all 100,000 planetary engines in 10 years, and also completes the anti-gravity transformation, the Earth Dome plan can begin. So Lin Xu entered the hibernation chamber with a beautiful vision and began a 100-year hibernation. Although when he ended his hibernation, the Earth Dome plan was only a small part of it. Lin Xu still can't wait to see what the plan will look like after it is actually implemented. P.S. I haven't thought of a title for the second volume yet, so I didn't write one. I should have thought of one by the time the second volume is finished. In addition, please continue to read and recommend it, thank you. Chapter 24 Starry Sky Ancient Battlefield. How long has it been? Lin Xu, who had just woken up from the hibernation chamber, asked Miss Qiu, who was standing outside the hibernation chamber. The time now is 10,890 of the departure calendar. 100 years have passed, Master. Miss Qiu replied. It seems that there were no unexpected emergencies during this voyage. Lin Xu was somewhat satisfied, but a little regretful. Although 100 years have passed, Master, you were awakened in advance, but the advance time was very short, only 3 months. I'm sorry, we did encounter an unexpected event and need you to make a decision. Miss Qiu responded. 3 months in advance? It seems that we are very close to the destination galaxy. What happened? Lin Xu asked in confusion. The Earth is now 0.5 light-years away from the target galaxy. As for more information, I was awakened from hibernation only 10 minutes ago, and I have not yet learned it. Miss Qiu apologized. Lin Xu, who had already walked out of the hibernation chamber, nodded to indicate that he understood. Then he spoke again. Who is responsible for driving this year? What happened? While speaking, Lin Xu had already taken Miss Qiu out of the hibernation room and came to the corridor full of technology. Master, Kaiming is at your service. Kaiming's voice sounded in the loudspeaker in the corridor. At the same time, Lin Xu had passed the corridor and entered the elevator. The elevator door closed and climbed up rapidly. Kaiming's voice was also transferred from the loudspeaker in the corridor to the loudspeaker in the elevator. The Earth is 0.5 light-years away from the target galaxy. It is currently moving towards the target galaxy at twice the speed of light. It is expected to reach the target galaxy in 3 months. Kaiming first introduced the basic situation at present, and then explained what happened. However, during the navigation process, the autonomous mechanical aggregate responsible for vigilance in the left front found a suspected interstellar war battlefield. Interstellar war battlefield? Is the war in progress, or the ruins after the war? Lin Xu suddenly became excited and a little nervous. This is an interstellar war. Although he knew that since he set foot in the starry sky, he would encounter this situation sooner or later, but he didn't expect it to come so suddenly. After preliminary investigation, it should be a post-war ruin, and the time when the war took place has been at least thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago? Is it related to humans? Lin Xu frowned. No traces of suspected human creations were found at the scene. The preliminary judgment is that it was not a war in which humans participated, but it should be between two alien forces. Lin Xu nodded. He now understood why he was awakened. Because whether to change direction and go to the ruins to check, this decision can only be made by him. How far are the ruins from us? Lin Xu asked. 9 billion kilometers, about 1,000th of a light year. Kaiming replied. Then let's go and have a look. Lin Xu decided immediately. 1,000th of a light year, if the Earth had just left the solar system and was still using plasma propulsion, it would probably take several years to travel this distance. Although the Earth at that time, under plasma propulsion, had a maximum speed of a few thousandths of the speed of light. But it was more cumbersome, and it would take a long time to turn. And when it arrived at the place, it would take even longer to slow down and dock. Or they could just pass by without stopping, and then take advantage of the window of time to quickly complete the investigation and return to Earth as soon as possible. This way, the time would be shorter. But now it is different. The Earth now has 100,000 planetary engines, all of which are equipped with curvature engines. Not only is the speed faster, but it is also more convenient to slow down and stop. For example, now, a distance of 1,000th of a light year can be reached in 4 or 5 hours with just a slight turn. So, without Lin Xu noticing, the Earth, controlled by Kaiming, turned slightly to the left and front, heading towards the ruins of the ancient battlefield in the starry sky. At this time, Lin Xu had already taken the elevator to the ground. The exit of the elevator was in Lin Xu's courtyard. However, Lin Xu did not stay in the courtyard for long, but directly controlled the clothes on his body, and nano-transformed into power armor. At the same time, the built-in anti-gravity device on the power armor was activated, and Lin Xu flew up and flew out of the ecological dome. Now Lin Xu no longer needs to spray plasma with his feet when flying on the Earth. His power armor has been modified and equipped with an anti-gravity device. In the future, when flying on the planet, he only needs to start the anti-gravity device, generate repulsion with the gravity of the planet, and control the deflection direction of the repulsion, and he can fly freely. Of course, this way of flying can only be used on the planet, and plasma is still needed for propulsion in space. After all, the curvature engine cannot be miniaturized to the extent that power armor can be used. And Lin Xu was so anxious to leave the ecological dome that wrapped Yanjing City, not to rush to the ancient battlefield in the starry sky. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar. It will take at least several hours to reach that ancient battlefield, so there is still time. Lin Xu rushed out to see how the Earth Dome plan that he had been thinking about was progressing so far. Although only 100 years had passed, and it was still far from the planned 1,000 years, Lin Xu was still impatient to see the effect of the plan first. As the ecological dome opened a gap, Lin Xu and Miss Qiu followed closely behind him. The scene outside the ecological dome jumped into Lin Xu's eyes. In Lin Xu's field of vision, countless thick columns that were much taller than planetary engines pierced the sky. In Lin Xu's sight, there were densely packed such columns, which were the so-called pillars of heaven. Each pillar of heaven was 100 kilometers high, nearly 10 times the height of a planetary engine. Lin Xu stood on the ground and looked up, and he couldn't even see the end of the pillar of heaven. Some pillars of heaven had been built to the point of being completed, but more pillars of heaven had only laid the foundation. According to Lin Xu's previous discussion with the quantum computers, since there were 100,000 planetary engines, there would be no need to spray plasma to accelerate the Earth in the future. Then just raise the height of 100,000 planetary engines and use them as pillars of heaven. This can save a lot of time. After all, building 1,000,000 pillars is not a small number. Moreover, the use of the elevated planetary engine as a pillar will not affect the operation of the curvature engine installed inside the pillar. Lin Xu even made another decision. When building the remaining 900,000 pillars, he also reserved space for installing curvature engines inside. At the same time, the curvature engine factories on Earth should not stop production and continue production. The curvature engines produced are directly installed on the pillars. In this way, when the construction of millions of pillars is completed, all the millions of pillars will be installed with curvature engines. I believe that the speed of the Earth will be further improved. P.S. Don't you all invest? It's useless for anyone to have the opportunity to invest for free. Come on, Invest quickly and give me some motivation to write. Chapter 25 Lin Xu's Ship. Lin Xu finally built a ship for himself, which was considered to be free from the situation that he could only travel by space shuttle in the past. Of course, Lin Xu could make this decision because he now had anti-gravity technology. After installing anti-gravity facilities on the ship, he could be as down to earth as on the ground, so Lin Xu built a ship for himself. If it was still like before, centrifugal force must be used to generate simulated gravity, which meant that Lin Xu wanted simulated gravity on the ship. The ship must be a large disk that keeps spinning. But what Lin Xu wanted more was the kind of handsome ship with clear edges and corners, so it was better not to build it. Now, with anti-gravity technology, Lin Xu finally has his own ship. According to what Lin Xu determined with the Yinghe, who was responsible for the construction, before he went into hibernation. Lin Xu's ship looks very sci-fi. It is 1,200 meters long and 300 meters wide. Because of the anti-gravity device installed. At this time, the ship was about 100 meters above Lin Xu, silent. If it weren't for the oppressive feeling that covered the sky, people would even ignore his existence. And around the flagship, there are hundreds of cones that are also floating in the air, with densely packed gun barrels on the surface. These cones are naturally autonomous machines, and they are also Lin Xu's guards. Because Lin Xu plans to go to the ancient starry battlefield in person later. The autonomous mechanical aggregate of the size of an aircraft carrier looks much smaller in front of Lin Xu's flagship. After all, taking the Fujian aircraft carrier as an example, it is only 320 meters long and 78 meters wide, which is more than one circle smaller than Lin Xu's flagship. It can be said that Lin Xu's flagship can already accommodate more than a dozen aircraft carriers. Of course, the size is like this, but what if a real fight breaks out? Lin Xu looked at the densely packed barrels on each autonomous mechanical aggregate, and the characteristics of the autonomous mechanical aggregate that can gather and disperse freely. Even though Lin Xu's ship was also well equipped, Lin Xu still didn't think that his ship could defeat any autonomous mechanical aggregate. Not to mention hundreds of them. In short, Lin Xu was ready, and the Earth had already sailed to the edge of the ancient battlefield. As Taiyin controlled the curvature engine in the planetary engine on the Earth, he stepped on the brakes of the Earth. The Earth was rapidly gliding in the space bubble formed by the curvature engine, and the curvature of the surrounding space quickly returned to stability. So the Earth also quickly returned to stability. In just over 10 minutes, it went from twice the speed of light to docking in the universe. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible for a planet as massive as the Earth to go directly from twice the speed of light to stationary. Even inertia alone can tear the Earth apart. But the curvature engine is different. The curvature engine relies on the curved space and uses the contraction and expansion of space to drag the Earth forward. To be more extreme, it can even be said that the Earth has never moved. It is the space that is changing, which is moving the Earth. So now it is just the change of space that has stopped, so the Earth has stopped. Naturally, there is no problem of inertia. In short, just like using an excavator to thread an embroidery needle, the Earth just stopped so lightly and incredibly. It stopped at the edge of a ruined area that looked like a battleship graveyard. Under Lin Xu's ship, a beam of light was projected, covering Lin Xu and Miss Qiu. Then the bodies of the two slowly rose. This is exactly the magnetic confinement field and optical tweezers grasping technology that Lin Xu had enjoyed when he just woke up. In this way, entering the interior of the ship, Lin Xu and Miss Qiu came to the command room of the ship. At this time, the ship has begun to take off, using anti-gravity technology to get rid of the gravity of the Earth and fly directly into space. Hundreds of autonomous mechanical aggregates acting as guards naturally followed. At this time, all autonomous machines on the Earth have been upgraded, and anti-gravity equipment has become standard. Lin Xu stood in front of the porthole of the command room, looking at the sky above the Earth. The busy autonomous machines floating in the air have become a new landscape. Countless autonomous machines are floating in the air, building pillars upwards. As the ship rises, Lin Xu sees more pillars, densely packed in his sight. Each pillar is much thicker than Lin Xu's 1,200-meter-long ship. It can be said that Lin Xu's ship has become a little brother in front of these pillars. So looking at the scene of the autonomous machines covering the sky and the sun, busy building huge pillars, Lin Xu suddenly felt that the ship under his feet was boring. "Master, you haven't named your ship yet," Miss Qiu reminded him. "The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Name." Lin Xu pondered for a moment. Before, he wanted to give it a mighty and domineering name. But after realizing that this ship was more like a toy than a warship, Lin Xu suddenly couldn't say the domineering names he had thought of before. It's not shameful to give a warship that can be knocked down by any autonomous mechanical aggregate a mighty and domineering name. Let's call it Kingfin. Lin Xu thought about it and said, since a domineering name is not suitable, let's make a slightly poetic one. In this way, the Kingfang carried Lin Xu straight to the ancient battlefield in the starry sky. Lin Xu stood in front of the porthole, looking at the ancient battlefield in front of him, which was getting clearer and clearer as the distance got closer, and his attention was completely attracted. According to Kaiming's report, the scope of this ancient battlefield is extremely wide, from top to bottom and from left to right, equivalent to the volume of several planets. Of course, a large number of objects are just fragments floating in the void. According to Kaiming's calculations, those fragments should be some broken warships. And in the depths of the ancient battlefield, some broken warships that are roughly intact can still be seen. These broken warships are large and small. The big one is about the same size as Lin Xu's current ship, Kingfeng, and the small one is about the same size as the autonomous mechanical aggregate. It is also from these damaged warships that a group of quantum computers analyzed that the technical level of the warring parties could not exceed that of the current Earth, so the danger is not great. That's why the 7 quantum computers agreed that Lin Xu came to check it out in person. As for why they are so sure that the technical level of the warring parties is not high, the reason is very simple. There are no warships on Earth. They are all autonomous machines. Although the bombardment of warships looks more majestic. But fighting is not about being majestic or not. It's like the ancients wore armor in war, and modern people don't wear armor in war. They don't look as majestic as the ancients. But what if they really fight? One shot kills one kid. And the civilization that still uses warships for war is obviously a symbol of backward technology in the eyes of a group of quantum computers. Moreover, the autonomous mechanical aggregate that discovered the ruins earlier and was responsible for exploring the way forward has collected some samples, which have been analyzed by a group of quantum computers, and have confirmed their ideas. P.S. Please read it again. For a new book, reading it again is really important. Thank you. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.